Hello, everybody. How you doing tonight? Well, I wanted to do a show on dating and relationships. I was recently asked by some young men in Mexico City some questions, and I was talking with Dan, and I realized that when we were started talking, my father never taught me about dating. My father taught me about a lot of stuff, but the only thing he ever said to me is, "Don't get a girl pregnant." Not very helpful. And in fact, probably the biggest influence when I was younger was probably Dan. Dan was dating long before me, and and as I started dating, and we started having more conversations about it, then I learned what a more experienced person was doing, and you learn as you go. But today is a very different world. Today it seems as though women are trying to be men. And so it throws things off a little bit. And in the preview to this video, I put up a trailer. Is I was exposed to a fellow named Kevin Samuels last week. So I didn't really know much about him, so I looked him up. And he's a black guy who's from Oklahoma. And he went to school, I believe, in either Oklahoma or Texas. I know he lived in Houston, and then he lived in Atlanta as well. And what his focus was on, now he was married and divorced twice. And he went through the gauntlet. And that's what happens is most people have to learn by getting punched in the face. And that's typically what happened to him. And when he reached 45 years old, I'm guessing, all of a sudden, after he had been through a couple marriages and had dated and not just dated, but just slept around as much as possible, so played the dog, he learned what worked and what didn't work. And for him, it became quite simple. And it's interesting that both him and the other guy I used in the trailer was Andrew Tate. And both of them have coined the term high-value men. And I think they're slightly different. Kevin Samuels, he terms a high-value man as somebody who earns at least $10,000 a month. And it starts with income. He is very, very definitive on division of duty, like it used to be in the old days. He believes that a man should be the provider, the man should bring home the bacon, the man should protect the family, and do all of the manly tasks. He believes that the woman should be sensitive, caring, stay-at-home mom who provides for the family, the nurturer. And that worked for a lot of years. And I was talking to Dan about this as well, as to why women have changed their approach over the last 50 years. And I remember meeting a woman a long time ago who was in a marriage. She'd given up her career or any chance of a career to stay at home with the children. And she was in an abusive relationship, but she stayed because she felt that she couldn't leave. Financially, she couldn't survive on her own if she took the children, so she stayed. And I think that's why a lot of women from that generation maybe started telling their daughters, hey, go to school, get a skill, don't rely on a man. And I think that's what's led to the problems that we have today. Is I think we have a confusion as to what roles people should be playing. Plus the dollar and our economy, the fact that it's very difficult for most people to survive on one income today. Back in the 70s, you could have a blue collar worker with a stay-at-home wife and 2 or 3 kids, and they made enough money to pay for the household. Hold on a second. Okay. I am going to take the link, and I'm going to put the link. If anybody has any questions, put them in the comments, please. And I will also add the link if you want to come on to the video. You're going to need a computer, desktop, or a laptop to join. So Kevin Samuels, so he focused on, in his later life, he basically was focusing on the Black community since he was a Black man. And he was very upset that, and in his belief, and he had statistics on this, women initiate 80% of the divorces. I think 80% of the children in the Black community are born out of wedlock, and only 1 out of 4 Black women will marry. He also, and he had mostly on his streams, he would have mostly Black women coming on. And he would have debates with them because the Black women were saying, well, the men are dogs, the men are no good, the men can't provide. And he would shoot down these statements that these people were making. I'm just checking the email. So if you have time, if you're interested in that type of stuff, and he's quite comical because he's a no-nonsense guy, and he says it like he sees it. And I think a lot of people are delusional when it comes to dating, and he believes that a lot of people delay their whole life until they get past. And when he's talking about women, he's talking about how they have an expiration clock for having a family. And then the other guy is Andrew Tate. And I don't know how much people know about Andrew Tate. He was in the news recently. And Andrew Tate he's a professional kickboxer or MMA guy. And he has had success in what he does. And his attitude is a little bit cruder than what Kevin Samuels talks about. But he has his own opinion. And he's almost a MGTOW, where he believes a man should focus on himself. And you will be no good to anybody if you're no good to yourself. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to take care of yourself. You have to focus on making yourself the best version of you before you can do anything about that. So, okay, let me bring on Dan.
Oops, sorry about that. Hey.
Yep. Okay, Dan. Uh, you there?
I'm there. I'm here. I just, yep, I'm here.
Closet?
So I like this platform. Nice.
Yeah, we're trying out a new platform tonight, so we'll see how that goes.
Very nice.
And so I was just introducing the video to Kevin Samuels and Andrew Tate.
Saw that.
Okay, and because you know what initiated this is I had a discussion about this with some people here, and then I told them that I'd talked to you about it, and it brought back a lot of memories that, you know, when I was 20 years old, I knew nothing. And I mean, who's going to teach you these things? I mean, how do you teach a man about, because, you know, if they're going to watch Andrew Tate, you're going to see these guys going around, hey, bitch, you know, to me,
You're not a G. You're not a G.
Whatever that, I don't even know him that well. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I mean,
but let me just.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's more than just getting a girl into bed. Okay. And I know that's what people think at 18. And the whole point is, and what I was getting into is, the one thing I do agree with Andrew Tate on, as little as I know about him, is he says a man should focus on himself before he focuses on anybody else. And I couldn't agree more.
Especially a young man, 100%. Yep.
Because a young man doesn't develop until he's 25 years old.
25 to 30. And I tell my son that all the time. I tell him, you need to focus on yourself. I know you're a young guy. You want to have some fun, the ladies and all that fun stuff. But I said, bottom line, you need to focus on yourself. What does that mean? That means learning as much as you can, you know, continuing to increase your value, whatever that may be, so on and so forth. And like you say to me all the time, what's the analogy when you're on an airplane and it loses cabin pressure, right? Right. The counterintuitive thing is to grab your own mask first, but that's the most prudent thing to do, because if you're struggling and gasping for air, you're not going to put it on your loved one to your left or your right or whomever, right? That's the basic premise, right? So I agree with from that perspective.
Yeah, and all of these are personal decisions. We all have to make personal choices. But right. As the thing I like about Kevin Samuel is, he's like, yeah, you're free. You're free to think whatever you want to think. But if you're delusional, you know.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah. Look, you're either, you know, spot on telling the truth. You're either crazy or you're a liar, I suppose. Or the fourth thing is you're sincere, you're trying to help, but you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, what are the options?
It's all about education, and it's about asking questions, and it's knowing and how to protect yourself and how to please the person you're with. It all plays into it. And if we're just talking about dating before we get to relationships, well, dating, you know, it's just about, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, the initial part of it, you know, getting together, the initial act and whatever, going out to dinner or drinks, whatever. And then to your point, as you said earlier, you know, trying to work the sack angle or whatever. That is just, as you get older, you realize that portion of it kind of shrinks in comparison to all the other things to deal with and important issues and so on and so forth, I suppose. That comes with maturity and time, though. But here's what I will say, too. And we've talked about this many times. We've lost 2 or 3 generations, not to go too far off track here, in this country where, and that's why you're seeing guys like Tate and so forth, where, you know, fathers used to do all that, right? You know, to one extent or in one form or another. That's not the case anymore because there are no fathers. by and large. And the American family, I don't care what anybody says, because I see it through observation, etc. And the statistics are there too, if you want to delve and take the time. The American family has been crushed and decimated, and the middle class continues to get crushed and decimated since the 1970s. Okay. And economically, and then that bleeds into the family. I mean, look at the mothers now, right? I heard a statistic the other day that
Well,
American
money does matter.
100%, man. But I heard a statistic the other day that said 25% roughly of American women are on pharmaceuticals, particularly as it relates to mind altering, anxiety, depression type things, right?
How much?
25%.
Oh, I thought it
One
was
out.
higher. I thought it was higher than that.
Okay, well, let's say it's 33, take the middle ground, whatever. That's exorbitant. And that's the highest in the world, by the way. That what I heard. So we're supposedly, the world leader and the blah, 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 and all this, but yet, we've got women in mothers in particular under so much freaking pressure, okay, that they're resorting to pills, and over half of them don't have a man in the household to help them to raise children and stuff. As great as women are, they're not men. They're not men, and men aren't women. Sorry, was I politically incorrect? So, children need a father, okay? And most of them don't have a father anymore.
Yeah, and it's a perpetual cycle where, and maybe that's why we have so many soy boys today, is that they're being raised by women.
Yes, 100%.
Right?
100%. Women are valuable. They're important, but they're not a man. There's certain things that a man brings to the table that a woman doesn't. It's just how it is. It's not a matter of it being inferior. There's certain things that I can't bring to the table that a woman brings to the table. She's going to instill. They've got certain virtues, absolutely, that we need and we want, but again, you don't have a woman raise a boy to be a man.
Right, but
it doesn't work.
But think about the guys our age. Most of the people we knew came from two-parent homes.
Absolutely. Probably 75, 80% or more.
Right. So, but your father didn't really teach you a lot about how to date or women in general.
That's
right? He didn't say, my father basically said, don't get a girl pregnant. And you and I joked about it when we were younger is, boy, imagine growing up in the 70s when you didn't have to worry about AIDS. You could just go and get penicillin.
Well, yeah. Is it any wonder why the 60s and 70s were batshit crazy?
Yeah, today you have to, today you really have to worry about STDs. And, getting a girl pregnant as a young man, that also is a very bad, that's bad for your trajectory in life.
100%. You just what's the word? Earmarked your next 20 years. And it's not going to be concentrating on yourself, to your point, in an upward trajectory manner or upward manner, as you just indicated.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much put a fork in it.
Yeah. This big fella, it's a sad story. I worked in schools many years ago. I could see we were in trouble 20 years ago.
Spot on, big fella.
It was bad then. Now they are adults. Well, that's what Bill Cooper talked about as well. He wrote his book in the 90s, and he's like, when this generation, and me and Dan are reading it, and I said to Dan, Dan, you do realize that this generation are now like 35 years old.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And
so the damage he's talking about is already, everybody, we're in bizarro world now.
Oh, yeah. This is now 2 or 3 generations deep, maybe 4. At least 2 or 3. And I don't see what gets me is with the politicians, regardless of the party. This is not political. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. We got to bring jobs and all. It's like, guys, in my simplistic opinion, everything goes back to the source, which is the family. Okay. We've got to get back to the basics and the building blocks, which builds any society and sustains any society. Is it any wonder with the family decimated as it is? And anybody with a 60 IQ or higher, I don't see how they can debate and argue with us about that. I really don't. Yet I do know people in my own family, I won't name names, that do debate me vehemently on this, but it's like, really? I mean, what perspective, what planet, what lens are you looking through the last 30, 40 years? I've seen the decline in my life like this, right?
In
And,
what?
a kid turns 18, 20, 22. They don't know any of the basics. Is it any wonder they've got 4 credit cards already and they're 20 grand in debt? I mean, nobody taught them anything. The basics of money, nothing, not a zippo in their defense. They don't know anything. And they're the second or third generation, and then they're going to have kids.
Yeah, and people, and I think what you're also saying through that is, people are holding on to the American dream because that's what everybody's been taught the last 50, 60 years. And that
Spot on.
means go to school. And now going to school means get $100,000 in debt, which
Spot on.
now you get a job at $50,000 a year, and it
It's a
takes you
joke.
10 years to pay it off. So are you going to have the money to get a house and get married and have children?
Listen, I don't want to correct you, amigo, but you say 10 years. I mean, it's like 15 or 20 now. It's very common now. You've got people 40 years old still making payments on their undergrad, okay? Because they graduated 100 G's, 150 G's, sometimes 200 G's, because they were putting living expenses in there, housing expenses, all that jazz on top of the schooling, right? Because their family couldn't afford it. So they got 150 G's, 200 G's in debt. That's a mortgage, basically. Okay. You're not out of the chute at 22. You've got a mortgage on top of your head. Right. And so it's very common, 35, 40. I've heard of people 45 years old making their final payments on their undergrad.
Just in time for retirement.
Exactly. And you wonder why they never bought a house or didn't buy a house, wait till later. We have punched the millennials so hard in the face. And then the Gen
It doesn't
Z
matter.
after them.
Yeah.
We have left a bag of crap. And when I say this, so many people get upset and mad with me. Oh man, you don't like America. Not at all. I love America. It's the complete opposite. But we have problems, guys. We have heavy systemic freaking problems.
Well,
and very few politicians have a sack to even try to address it. Rand Paul is a great example that gets out there every day. God bless him, in my opinion, beats the friggin' drum, tells it exactly like it is, and nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to hear it because it's not pretty and it's ugly.
Yeah, and think about this, okay? When a kid turns 18, even 20 or 22, when I was 18, 20 or 22, I didn't feel like a young kid. I mean, I felt as though I was making my way in the world. But
Right.
now that I'm older and I've watched these little babies I held in my arms becoming 20, 22, 25, I now realize how young 20 is and how little they know. And if we do not do our jobs as a society and as a family to educate our youth properly,
Educate.
it's going to be that island where those kids went bananas and started killing everything. Remember that old in Little Piggy? Oh, I forget the name of that.
Yeah,
book.
no, I know what you mean. Let me put it this way. I don't want to be harsh, okay? But I've said this many times and people get upset with me. As a whole, now I'm not pointing at any particular people or person or family, but as a whole, if you're truly honest, we are failing as a society. We've been failing, in my opinion, at least since the 1960s, plus or minus. Okay, with the new society, the New Deal, or whatever the hell it was called. Once all that crap was ushered in. And I listened to a great economist earlier today. I forget his name, but he summed it up beautifully. Basically, between 1870 and 1970 was the biggest sweet spot, if you will, and growth spot for America, where each successive generation thrived greater than the previous one, economically, et cetera, right? And since the 70s, it was an upward wedge for that 100 years. Since the 70s, it's been a downward wedge, if you will. for those trader types, right? 45-degree downward wedge. And, wages have been stagnant since then. We continue to destroy the currency, on and on and on. And when you do that, you destroy the middle class and the lower class, right? It's not the wealthy that are hurting. They actually, in so many ways, without getting into the details,
Dan,
benefit.
let's not go off into an economic. This is about dating and relationships.
Well, 100%, but
Okay.
and that's a good point. But it's funny. It all sort of, in a way, ties into each other.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but people who are dating and in relationships don't give a crap about that. Okay, it may be irrelevant, but it's basically it's a periphery item. Okay, and that's what
Agreed.
society has to focus on, not the individual. And so the other thing that popped into my head is I think, and you've experienced this, is 100 years ago, 200 years ago, people didn't necessarily focus their lives on happiness, right? Happiness wasn't the focus. It's not even mentioned in the Bible, as we've talked about. So people tended to focus more on duty and division of duties and responsibility and taking care of what what they had to do in life.
Because it was the honorable thing to do as well, right? Yeah, and
maybe because people weren't living as long, right?
That too, and the definition of a man, partly anyway, and I just agree with this because you brought him up earlier, the young guy Tate, so I applaud him for that. But any man that's lived any amount of time, and we're probably pretty good examples over 5 decades each, 100 years between the two of us, realizes that part of being a man is doing what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, whether you want to do it or not. It's your duty, okay? Most men, 95% of the time, in women, particularly American women now, in my opinion, they don't freaking get this, okay? 98% of the time, 99% probably, are doing stuff that they don't want to do, but they have to do it for various reasons, particularly if they have a family and a wife and a mortgage and everything else. It's your duty. It's your honor. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, I could rebut you a little bit and say, well, you said, there's no place where happiness is mentioned. Well, the founding fathers did say life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? But, what is the definition of pursuit of happiness? I mean, at the end of the day, it's nice to be happy. Don't get me wrong. Okay. It's better than being miserable. But, you're not going to be happy, or you're going to be less happy too if you're not doing what you're supposed to do and not doing it in an honorable manner and constantly striving, as opposed to just blowing it off and letting it fall to pieces. Then you will be unhappy.
But when you're a young person, whether you're a male or female, you don't often have the emotional maturity to deal with these issues. And that's where you have to have a mentor. If it's because, I'd like to say fathers talk about this stuff, but I don't think most fathers do talk about this stuff. I'm not sure most fathers have that type of relationship with their kids.
That's a good question. These days, I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I know that a lot of what we're talking about now, and sometimes he rolls his eyes and whatever, but I think at the end of the day, he knows that I care at the very least. I do push a lot of this stuff with my son for what that's worth. Sometimes he's like, yeah, Dad, whatever. And I can proverbially, figuratively see his eyes on the phone rolling and stuff. But I try to make the effort for what it's worth. But it's hard. It's hard. I didn't get it, to your point. And I don't know if you got it with your dad and stuff like that.
That's what I started off with. And that's why, and so, are we softer today?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. What was the thing you sent me a month ago or so? A football player said or something, hard times create hard men and soft times create soft men.
That's an old saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so when times get good, you tend to get complacent, a little bit softer. And then what happens is then, it's cyclical. Then it goes down again and it gets bad. And then you've got to dig in your heels again and you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you got to get tough again out of sheer necessity. Because if you don't, you don't survive. I mean, we're very lucky as human beings in a lot of ways, right? I mean, we dispensed with the animal kingdom, plus or minus, maybe few hundred years ago. I don't know. But if we were truly animal kingdom like the animals, it wouldn't be pretty, guys. And I'm not advocating that, by the way, but I think you know what I'm saying, right? So,
Well, there's a lot of confusion today about what people even are. So, back when, I mean, there were gay people when we were young, but it was really literally in the closet, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it was not open
No,
back then.
no, it
And
wasn't.
so people didn't really have, it wasn't Baskin Robbins where people had 57 flavors to choose from.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, besides being a man and a woman, there were 17 other sexes, I guess, according to the state of New York these days. So, and look, I'm not judging anybody. I'm not trying to put anybody down or whatever, but you reach a point, guys, where, and I'll quote your boy again. You mentioned him, Tate, again. I mean, if you took 10 or let's say 20 people and you put them on an island, right? And it came down to the basics, survival. They didn't have anything.
No, they did that as a real experiment.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And I love women. They're important. But, if you did that and you had nothing, and this was pure survival. Now, somebody's got to do the foraging. Somebody's got to do the hunting. Somebody's got to be doing the shelter. Somebody else needs to be taking care of the house, building the kitchen, whatever, so that when the carcass is dragged in, so on and so forth. And if there's kids in the mix, blah, 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 right? All of a sudden, the high esteemed progressive society then goes down to the least common denominator out of sheer necessity, right? And even these so-called, these women that don't need a man, all of a sudden, they're looking for the man now. They're leaning on him for certain things now because this is survival now. Well, who's going to build the shelter? Who's going to protect us from the storm? Who's going to make the spear to get the fish? Well, why don't you do it, sugar? You know what I'm saying? Now it's not funny anymore. And so for the longest time in millennium, that's how it always was, tribes and stuff when you're living in villages, and then you had to have a defense system in place and a lookout and everything else. You could get raided. You could get killed at the slightest, who knows what, from not only human beings, but a wild animal, go on and on and on.
And that was all, I mean, and the technological advances back then really did not replace menial jobs like they do today. And so you don't need 50 guys to do what a machine and 5 can do. And so that's probably part of the confusion today is, as I mentioned before about the American dream, what are people going to do today because everybody wants to live a quality life, and most people don't know how to achieve that.
Yeah, and
especially going forward with the changing the world. I mean, we definitely are in direct competition with billions of other people. Not when we got out of college, Dan, we didn't have to compete with that.
No, it was regional, maybe national at times, but now it's truly global. You're competing with, surge in Russia or Ukraine, and you're competing with, whomever in India and whoever in Japan and on and on and on, right? In, whatever, Malaysia, Indonesia,
So as a kid in high school, what should a kid in high school be focusing on?
Well, you want my opinion? Because I talk to young people all the time, particularly in high school.
Well, let's just give a preface here. I mean, I'm not married. I don't have children. Dan's married. Dan has children. And that's why we're talking, because we both have unique perspectives here.
Come at it from a different angle or whatever. Yeah.
So if we're on the same page, it's probably the right answer.
That's a good
Maybe,
point.
maybe.
Yeah, or we're in the ballpark, I suppose. I would like to think. I'd like to think we're not bat crazy in left field. But here's what I can tell you, which is amazing to me. Um, you know, the two that are in high school still, the girls. I talked to them about some of their assignments, some of the papers they're writing, what they're reading these days, and it's all the same stuff that we did 45 years ago. Exact, Moby Dick, whatever, Romeo and Juliet, just the same shtick. Still
Well,
doing,
classics are classics, right?
I guess, but and then they're still going to have to probably take trigonometry junior year and all that crap. Okay, that's great, but where am I going with this? I'm not an educator, okay, but
Do you remember the question I asked?
I think so. Yeah.
What's the question?
Yeah. So coming at it from, different angles.
What should young people be focusing on?
Well, I apologize. I'm getting at it in a peripheral way. I'll say this in a nutshell. I think the high schools are failing our kids. They're not preparing them. So they shouldn't be focused on, by and large, what's currently being taught, because a kid gets out of high school today, it's by and large useless. So that's part of the equation. So then if you got rid of that, hypothetically, what do you fill that void with? Well, I have some thoughts on that. It definitely has to be more practical, hands-on education that gives them a combination of hard and soft skills, so that when they get out, they're hitting the ground running, compared to not being able to do anything at this point. I mean, I don't want to be mean.
Well, if somebody, if you're one of these young people who can't answer what's 3 times 3 times 3, right? Or where is Europe on the map, or how many continents were you? Just these basic things. If you can't even answer these basic, simple facts of life, then you are not going to succeed.
Yeah. So STEM for sure, science, what is it? Technology, mathematics for sure. A certain level, obviously, of reading and writing and being able to articulate, for sure, to your point. And you're right. If you can't even do those things, who's going to be in the future? This is what scares me. You and I are going to be old and mothballed someday. It's going to happen if we live long enough. Who's going to keep building the roads, building the bridges, building the buildings, designing the cars, planes, on and on and on, right?
The robo-dogs,
building the computer networks, etc. This is heavy stuff, guys, where dedication is required. You just don't get a piece of plywood, a nail, and a hammer and slap stuff up. You know what I mean? Right? And when you're building a bridge across whatever, a big expanse of water, and you're drilling pylons into the bay, you've got to be precise.
Well, here, Big Fella makes a good point here. Let me put it up on the screen. And I have had this debate with one of my sisters, and I'm sure I've discussed this with you as well, where high schools should be eliminated today. Really. They should be completely revamped. I mean, if you look at the two things, if you look at the taxes that you're paying on your property taxes, I'd guess that at least 50% of your town budget goes towards schooling for your local kids. And most of that is paid to administrators, buildings, not to teachers, right? Not
I agree. Yeah.
Course material.
Yeah, I would agree.
And the bottom line is, I know that Big Fella is saying that AI and technology is the enemy, but I look at a handgun or a rifle or a knife or AI. I look at it as a tool that can be used for good or evil. And as far as education is concerned, I remember in high school there were dumb classes, there were smart classes. There was the retard class. Oh, I shouldn't say that, but and so
how dare you?
so what happened is I remember I didn't go to public school, but my siblings did, and I would hear these stories where they would have like these literally close to retarded kids in classes with them, and it would slow down the entire class, and
Definitely.
it would affect the entire class.
Of
And
course.
today, it's kind of like you don't even need to have really grades. You just have levels, and the kid goes at their own speed. And also, it can be tailored to what the kid's good at, because that's the problem today is we throw 30 kids or 50 kids or 10 kids, however many it is, we put one teacher and say, teach them math, right? And so I think what technology can do is it can help focus on what is this person going to be a productive member of our society.
Yeah, I agree. So just to add to that, there's either you can look it up. Somebody might know the exact amount. It's either 6 or 8 learning types. And basically what you said in a different way is when you throw 30 kids in the classroom, and then you throw a teacher in there that's pontificating, if you will, all day, blowing hot air. Yeah, that's essentially auditory learning, maybe a little bit of visual on the chalkboard, right? But basically it's lecture style, right? We know there's 6 or 8 types of learning. Not everybody learns the same. So you could argue statistically of those 30 kids, uh, at least half to 2/3 of them, that's not their learning style. So they're like this. They're zoned out the whole time.
Yeah, could you be a doctor? Could I be a doctor? No, no way.
Um, Probably not. I didn't
Unless I'm
try,
Dr. Frankenstein.
but yeah, exactly. But no, but probably not. But I would guess out of the
Hey,
30
Dan,
kids, 10 or
I'm not a
20,
doctor, but I play one on TV.
it's true. 10 or 20% of those kids can learn that way. But it's probably the Pareto effect, the proverbial 80%. It's not striking a chord with them. They're bored out of their freaking gourd. They need to be engaged or hands-on training or whatever, right?
Yeah.
We got to use our common sense. Like, a lot of times just within the industrial trades and stuff, you got to do hands-on. The military does hands-on. You can only do the simulator for so long with the helicopter or the plane, and eventually you got to get in the cockpit and start it up, and you got to fly it, and you got to get the feel. There's no way around it.
Yeah, and and the other good thing about possibly AI being used is like we talked about, whether it's the military or the teams playing in the Super Bowl, teams get better, people get better when they practice, when they've gone through simulations before. When you've seen something 2 or 3 times, all of a sudden the third time, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I know how to do this. And
Well,
that goes to relationships, it goes to jobs, it goes to everything in life. And if people aren't exposed to it, and the whole point of primary and secondary education, in my opinion, is to prepare people. You're not going to be able to teach them everything in life, but hopefully you give them a foundation to where they can go out and learn, and more importantly, learn what they should be doing with their life.
okay, so I guess what I would say to young people, especially these days and going forward, because it's only going to continue to speed up and get even more complex, is, the days of whether it's high school is the last thing for you or undergrad or grad school, whatever. You got to have the mentality to always keep learning and bettering yourself. It's just the nature of the world and the nature of the beast. That's the first thing I would say. And then secondly, or maybe firstly, what are your propensities? You know what I mean? What are your natural propensities, I guess, and strengths? Because we do a lot of disservice as a society with young people, in my opinion, because I know this was beat into my head. You got to be balanced. You've got to be well balanced and spread out, a mile wide. They didn't say mile wide, and an inch deep, and be balanced. Well, that's not necessarily true, in work on your weaknesses. Well, I don't know. If you look at the most successful people in the world, they focused on their strengths and focused in like one particular area until they really mastered it. And then it took off. Being friggin' balanced and spread out across all these things, of which most of them you're not going to be good at because that's just how it is. And then the kid wonders why they're a failure. Well, geez, Johnny, you're a failure. I mean, you're not balanced and good at all these things. No, that's not real life. The problem in school is they teach you there's only one answer, and in real life, there's usually more than one answer. I mean, who invented the light bulb? Was it, what's his face? Who invented the light bulb?
Well, it's supposedly Edison.
Okay, let's say it's
But
Edison.
supposedly it's some guy in Italy.
Okay. All right. Hey, Viva.
Yeah,
But
well, this is the thing with history, right? The winners write it.
But the point is, we know that it took him thousands of attempts to invent a light bulb and get electricity working. That's the real world. You don't get it on the first swing.
That's right.
And you shouldn't feel like a loser if you don't. But we teach kids in school to walk on eggshells and feel like a loser if you don't get it the first time around, And it's like, I don't know. So then the kid comes out, and I'm speaking for myself because I was like that when I first came out, between the way I was raised and the school systems are, oh, what do you mean you don't know? Oh, you got it wrong? What are you, a moron? You couldn't get it on the first attempt? And the way the grading systems are set up, that's how it is, I guess. Take the exam. It's just focused all on grades, and the kid could forget it all tomorrow, most of which is useless anyway. That's the irony. It's got to be revamped. The educational system is based on the 18th century, 19th century, whatever it is, industrial age. The classroom setting, all of it, the brick and mortar. It's antiquated. It's 100 years old. I don't know what the answer is, but that's broken.
Yeah. What does Tate say about? I mean, Kevin Samuels. He's very definitive about what a man's role is and what a woman's role is.
Yeah.
Does Tate say that a woman has a role? Because
100%.
Kevin Samuels is very funny because he says a lot of women today think they have, dorks, because the women out there, the career women, I don't need a man, and
right, 100%.
And they think that a man is going to be attracted to them by being an earner, when men don't care about that. In his opinion, men are visually oriented, and they want a good-looking woman with a nice figure, who has the feminine qualities that will provide what they need for,
a real man is attracted to a feminine woman that brings a form of flower-like softness to the situation, right? I mean, if I want a man, I'll go marry a man, but I'm not interested in that. You know what I'm saying? If I want to come home after working 10 or 12 or 14 hours and then put on the sparring gloves, I mean, really? What's the point? Right? I'm not interested in my mate acting like a freaking man. In going,
well, that's it.
And button heads with me like she's a dude. Really?
Right, Kevin. That's what I love about Kevin. He's like, stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Yeah, it's like, give me a break. I mean, you just killed yourself all day. Now I got to go home and I got to deal with this bullshit. I've been in the ring all day long with the shield and the thing, whacking all day long to make a living, putting up with politics, this, that, and everything else. Now I got to come home and deal with this crap. And to add to your point, dude, more men than ever before, American men and American women, better wake the frig up, are leaving the country. They're getting passports, and they're going overseas, and they're getting foreign women because they're sick of the Western bullshit. Newsflash.
No, it's really happening.
Yeah. And so these women, what do they got to show when they're 50 years old? Yeah, I'm a master's degree, PhD, whatever. I was a big earner and the big puffed up shoulders like a guy. Now you're 50 years old. You're home alone with 2 cats, and you got nothing to show for it. And you're going to die alone. Okay. Nobody asked the 90-year-old grandmother who might have had 5 kids, raised a great family. Those kids in turn had kids, and those kids had kids. And they're at the big family reunion. Nobody asked her when she was 93 years old, "Hey, grandma, how much were you pulling down?" You know, she just contributed to, 50 sentient people in the room. That's big contribution because she decided to have a family and do it right and emotionally support her kids when they were growing up, blah, blah, blah. See, we laugh at that now. We mock that. We call it a
Yeah,
joke.
yeah,
Oh, you want
because
to stay home and be a housewife and run, running a household is like running a small business. Newsflash. You've got provisions, you got to take care of the kids. There's shopping, there's clothing, there's paying the bills, there's budgeting. It's running a small business. It's not a joke to do it properly, but nobody does it properly anymore. That's why everybody doesn't have a budget. They can't even spell budget. That's why the United States is in the shape it's in, 31 trillion and counting. I mean, who makes that all up? We're all part of it.
Well, I think it's because the modern woman looks at it as though they consider it slavery. They consider it as a loss of power in that if they submit to the man like that and the man swaps out for a newer model, then
that's baloney. Most guys, some do. There are some jerks out there, absolutely, but most guys are not doing that. Okay, most guys don't even initiate the divorce. 50% divorce rate in the first go around, 80% of which are initiated by women. It's not the men initiating it; it's the women.
Right. That's what I opened up with.
Exactly. And, she says she's a slave. She's at home. She's, not being treated right, whatever. Well, what about him who's working 12 or 15 hours a day? You think he's having a friggin' joy? You think he wants to be at work 13 hours that day with the boss up his ass all day? He's not a slave either, trying to make provision and support the family. It goes both ways. Give me a break.
Dan, we have somebody coming on board.
Oh, excellent. El Nino Davida.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, where are you from,
That's
buddy?
awesome. I don't know why the camera isn't working.
No, we can see the top of your head.
There he is.
Okay.
Where you coming from, amigo?
Sorry, come again?
Where are you?
Well, that's kind of like a long story, but the short end of it right now, I'm just chilling in London.
London?
Yeah.
London. Wow, man.
Last time I was there, I couldn't believe how many security cameras are everywhere now.
Oh, everywhere, man. On every light post.
Yeah, actually, you'd be surprised. You can't even pick your nose and get away with it. I think there are more cameras than population over here, man.
Absolutely,
I think
man.
so. I think so.
How are you guys? I've been following your content for quite a while on YouTube and other platforms. I think it was what was it? I forgot the name of it. Odyssey and Rumble as well.
Yeah.
I think mainly you, David, but when
we were kicked off YouTube, I had to find another platform. YouTube took away the channel for about 3 months.
Yeah, I was paying attention closely, like when you broadcast a lot of content, especially with Jim Willie, the legendary Jim Willie. Is like it's funny. I can see the two of you, but like for me, it's like a green screen or something like that.
You can't see us.
Yeah, so
Jim's awesome.
Yeah, I can see you just fine. I can hear you. Yeah. Yep. So what do you you have any input on the topic of the day, dating and relationships?
Well, to be honest with you, like yeah, I do. I got some insights on that. I don't want to digress into other kind of like other topics. I'm going to stick into the main one, but look, I'm pushing 40 right now. I'm pretty sure like that like I'm kind of like I can hold a candle to you guys. You obviously got way more experience than I do.
We're just a lot older, that's all.
No.
Dan's a lot older.
Look, I'm still kind of like a hybrid of I consider myself as a Gen Xer. Obviously not a baby boomer, but I'm not another like another millennial. I hope well, obviously it's a kind of like a free speech platform, so I'm just gonna let it
Oh
go.
yeah, yeah. You can say anything you want.
Yeah, I'm not another millennial Gen Z fucktards with a
Yeah.
self-entitlement sense. Like, I don't have to work hard for something good to happen to me in life. I just expect good things to happen to me just cause.
The world owes me
Uh,
shit, right?
yeah, exactly. Like,
You owe me, man.
yeah, all the libtards and the greentards and all the, that pool of, it's just, I don't know how to describe it even. Like sometimes, and like, I see it every day in the streets and also in my line of work. I'm self-employed. I'm providing private security services, but in addition, I'm like kind of like trading precious metals,
Awesome.
accumulating some, but also flipping, like
Cool,
selling,
man.
buying, exchanging, trading.
Good for you, man.
I gotta tell you, like the amount of abuse we get sometimes, um, doing security in public or private venues, it's unreal. Like,
I
it's
just read today. Now is your name Nino? Is that your real name, or that I call you?
Well,
Or
actually, the full name is Elishay Nino, but like I kind of like because of the start of my name, it's like El Nino and Davida,
okay,
so it's kind of like child of life.
yeah, yeah.
Child of life.
Well,
Yeah,
I just read today that the price of private security is going through the roof right now.
it is, and especially like well, I took kind of like the kind of like the private, and I used to work with a lot of different companies and agencies, but I don't do that anymore because they are just the vast majority of them are just a bunch of crooks. They're like for every hour you work, they charge for you in the local currency terms. They charge for like I don't know, 30-40 pounds an hour, and then did you just give you like slightly over minimum,
A
and for the
fraction.
amount, yeah, for the amount of risk that you're exposed to and the amount
Hmm.
of abuse you get either from the managers of the venue, the assistant general managers, some of the clients sometimes, and then they give a phone call to the operation manager of the same company and or agency you're working for, and then basically you getting it from all fronts. So I just decided to go solo to register myself as self-employed with a unique tax reference number, kind of like a UTR.
Mhm.
And once a year I visit my account, even though with what's going on with today's economy, like I believe it's going to change very rapidly, because they're literally financially raping the middle class, and also they want to abolish completely self-innovation and self-employment and like working hard, even if it's just I don't know, even if it's just, there's nothing out there, go clean gutters, go do something, go I don't know, chop something in the woods and make something of it, create something, go set it
But
up.
you could rely on the state and collect, universal basic income and watch Netflix all day.
Exactly, but that's my point. Like people think it's an actually a good thing when
Exactly.
they issuing more debt, and then current and mainly future generation is going to have to pay that debt with interest, uh, and then some. And people
Spot
just
on.
keep on not getting that. Like, I mean, it's for me, it's just like in relation kind of like to the topic, I'm married for the past 8 years and some change,
Good. Good for you.
and the thing is, I got two beautiful daughters. Who just
Awesome.
Yeah, just today we celebrate the firstborn one, her seventh birthday, and
Oh, the
even from a
girls are
very
so
young,
cute. Yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like very very nice, and
Yeah, I
especially
got daughters, man, so I hear you. I have a son, but two, but the girls,
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's great, but like even from a very young age, sometimes when I'm coming back from a hard day of work, so I kind of like, let's say, I don't know, I came back home with if I purchased or liquidated, like I come back home with, let's say, 2 tubes of sovereign minted coins of American Silver Eagles or
oh wow.
Canadian Maple Leafs, and I kind of like, I put, those board games, Monopoly money. You remember the Monopoly game?
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
So I put like whether if it's a US dollar or a Great British Pound, and then I take from my pocket the actual central bank note, and then I take out a silver ounce, and I ask my daughters, "Can you tell me the difference? Can you actually tell me?" Now the little
Wow.
one understands it a bit less, but she's getting there. She's
Mhm.
about to become 5.
Oh man, that's awesome what you're doing for them. That's a great
Exactly.
education, man.
So listen to this. The first born one, her name is Alicia, and she caught up to it quite well. It says like these two made out of paper and plastic, and this one is metallic. I told you yes. You
She's
see
thinking.
this? Yes. So I told her, you see, before the system rottens your brain, before you get to a state of a fully formed mind. So I told her, this is sound money. Money exists. Gold, silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium. I just start from the basic, mainly gold and silver, the
Absolutely, man.
monetary base metal. And then I told her, this is funny money, monopoly money. This is modern slavery. For every 1 or 5 or 10 or 20 note or 50 note or whatever denomination you want to put it at, like put on the note or whatever color, whatever face, this is current and future slavery, a unit of debt being issued into the system, and that's it. And one day, if like the system will collapse and implode or explode or both, who knows? Um, we'll be protected. Like we won't have to kind of like whether if they're going to issue UBI, Universal Basic Income, or that hot new topic of CBDC, central bank digital currencies, which
Yep.
is essentially programmable money. Oh, you've been a bad boy by attending to this rally or demonstration, or did you criticize the regime? So we're gonna cut your funding, or we're gonna fine you, or you're suddenly blocked. So basically,
Freeze your
F off,
account, take
stop
your
it.
money, whatever.
Yeah,
Just ask
exactly.
the truckers in Canada last year, right?
Yeah, that for in from my perspective, like from my point of view, I think it was a better testing. I think how it's going to play out for the alleged naughty,
And no one revolted.
you know what? I think that there's more to it than than we have witnessed, because how should I put it? I don't know if you guys, because I followed like in the last. I've been on those cases for the past, like let's say if I'm a year away from 40. So let's put it this way: in the last 13, 14 years, I've been all over these cases of those satanic deep state motherfuckers and the powers that be. And
Yep.
I gotta tell you, I've been following several platforms. One of them is yours, David. I don't know if Dan's got his own channel, but I've always been there, at least giving a thumbs up and leave a comment every now and then. It was me, by the way, who asked you several times about Jim, if you can recall, like in the
I do.
past few months.
And
So yeah, Jim has been great. Like he's been like a mentor.
well, I've tried to have, he's going through, I don't want to say too much because he
No,
might,
I know,
but he's,
I know.
I hope to have him on soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I kind of like went on. You just guys let me know if I keep on renting and you wanna dive
No,
into
no, no,
anything.
no. It's good because I mean you have two daughters, and I don't know if did you grow up in a house with a mother and a father at home?
Up to a certain age, but then when I was really young, when I was about 6.5, they got divorced, and it was I was the firstborn son. Then there was my younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. And then I think a year after my father left, he obviously we had good relations, but he remarried, and then from the second wife, he had another 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. Now, a lot of people like to describe it as a step brother or sister. For me, it was just 2 sisters and a brother. I didn't care that it's from a a different woman.
Mhm.
One thing led to another. Obviously, my father was the kind of like the bridge, the bonding. Because the other woman in the beginning, she was nice to us, but then when the first girl came in, she was kind of like started to be mean and like, kind of like we kind of like a bag over her head to be like no, I mean, like, listen, you're my father's second wife. You're not my mother. I've got my own mother. And it's kind of like took off from there. But I did have a really good, strong alpha type father who taught me a lot, like not just in a way of education, like, but in a way of like how to approach things.
Hmm.
Um, he was definitely
And it sounds like he was local.
well, the thing is, up to a certain point, he was like, I don't know, he used to have a powerful sway on people, if it makes sense. Kind of like he was he was by the way, his profession, he was one of the top 10 in that area at that time, top 10 criminal lawyers.
Oh wow.
um um and you know what, I'm kind of like, I think that in time, when he started to grasp more and more and realize that there's things, the way things appear and the way things actually are, and he knew it ahead of time. But I don't think, or maybe I could be wrong, because now, right now, it's like 17 years after his passing. So, but the thing is, I think that he wasn't down deep down in the rabbit hole as
Mhm.
much as I dove in. Like, I'm not comparing myself to him. Obviously, at the time, he knew what he knew, but nowadays, it's completely different ball game. I mean, like, look what's going on around us. Like all
Well,
this
back
stuff.
even 20, I mean, before 9/11, you had to be an incredibly perceptive person to see that we're in a matrix or that we're in this big facade. Because, you know, even though you had signs there, I think most people bought into everything hook, line, and sinker. It's kind of like what I see when I lived in China, is like all the Chinese people love the CCP and the government there because they see their lives getting better. And so they buy into the system. Whereas the last 40 years, our system has been going like this. And now it's very obvious now that we're a fighter plane on flames going down. I mean, it's at this point it's like get your parachute on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave. Like 20 years ago, I didn't see it either. I was blind. The veneer was over my face totally. And we still were in the downward trajectory, I believe, then, but
Yeah.
it's far more apparent now and it's far more steep. And I kind of hate some of your analogies, Dave. I just pray the plane isn't on fire, like you're saying, and stuff with it like this. I mean, but I don't think I could debate you either, you know?
Look, I
Yeah.
gotta tell you, like, going back to both of you, like, to the original point, like, I don't know if you guys involve, like, obviously you produce a lot of content and you're debating among yourself and with the audience you broadcasting to, but I've been kind of like participating with, if it's with to some degree commentary or just listening and expressing my opinion or agreeing fully or partially. Um, uh,
Right.
but there was a period of time just before the pre-planned scamdemic, the COVID thing. If you can recall, there was a lot of channel just like in 1 2 days got nuked, completely abolished
Yeah.
from YouTube.
Yeah.
Whether if it's X22 report, SGT report, Rogue News,
I remember those cats, man.
man, you just
Yeah.
name it.
Greg Hunter at USA Watchdog, he got zapped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, what's his name? I forgot. I hope I pronounced it right. Like Dustin Nemo's news network and
Mm.
Red Pill Living, and that there was like loads of them. They didn't just took one or two or even three videos. They just give them like completely erased the entire
Yeah,
channel.
gone.
You couldn't
Gone.
even find any of
I
those
remember
things.
X22 big time, man.
Yeah, X22 report. He had like three different channels. He had X22 Spotlight, X22
Yeah.
Report, and then the third one I think was Flash something. I'm not sure. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
it
He
was the
does good.
lead.
He does good work. Yeah.
That dude was very good. Yeah, you're
Well, he's
right.
still
I
on.
haven't
He's
thought
on
about that
Rumble.
in a while. Wow,
Well,
you're right. They just zapped
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. Him, and also I think his name was what was his name? Dave, or I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Dave from X22.
Yeah, X22, and
Yep,
Sean
his
from
name's Dave.
SGT Report, if you can remember
Right.
Sean.
Yeah.
So yeah, they also used to interview Jim Willie for that matter quite a lot, but also they used to interview Rob Kirby, may he rest in peace,
Oh yeah, yeah. I
and
actually
also
reached out to him, and he was by the time he was actually on the decline.
yeah.
Yeah,
To
I
be honest
missed
with you,
him.
I'm not like I'm not in that region for quite some time now, so I don't know. Like there's conflicting reports that he was struggling with some underlying health issues, but on the other hand, there's some claims by some family members and also Jim
Right.
that because the depth of the things that he got in, not just on the financial aspect and the economy, but also about Castro's bastard. Yeah,
Oh yeah, he let it all hang out. He wasn't afraid to say anything. That guy.
exactly, which is
Yeah.
why I so much appreciate him, and I literally like it sounded a bit off, but I didn't just like them. I love the man. I love this work. His website is still on, but like there's a lot of
Yeah,
sections.
and you trusted him.
Yes, but they're blocked. Like the certain sections and past articles that you don't have access to anymore. Now I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that that's not his family that blocked and stopped
Hmm.
the activity of the website. But
Interesting.
I gotta tell you, um, he did some fantastic work, not just in relation to the economy. Also, listen to him and Jim at the same time, talking about certain things. And again, X22 Report used to interview him and Jim and other financial experts, and yeah, that was quite interesting. And also, I don't know if you know the bunch of guys, CJ and V the Gorilla, and all those guys from Rogue News. They used to call
I,
themselves Rogue Money.
yeah, you know, it's I don't listen to as much as I used to, but I'm familiar.
You,
I've, I'm familiar with who they are.
David, I gotta tell you, like one minute to another, you gotta go on this channel and listen. They got kind of like they got Rogue Mornings when it's basically political, geopolitical, uh, strategic, economical commentary, like of Rogue Morning. Mainly Vidi Gorilla, CJ the producer, and then you've got sometimes the guy that used to be called Crypto Cowboy, but nowadays he's like Algo something, Algo Cowboy, I think.
Changed his name.
No, I don't know his real name to be honest
Oh,
with you,
no,
but
no.
yeah, he probably he changed it, not his gender, that's for sure. but
Wouldn't be
but yeah,
surprised these days.
yeah. But the thing is, they've got like every day of the week, they host one or two regular based, you know, people that have a lot of content. Like let's say Mondays are usually reserved for the Outer Limits with Jet Blake, and Tuesdays is I think I think I'm not so sure. Like it could be one or two broadcasts, and they're everywhere. They're like in Rumble, D Live, Twitch. They also like if you want to kind of like join the live chat, similar to this one in StreamYard. Um,
Mhm.
you can email CJ at I think it's CJ at roguenews.com or something like that, and then
Yeah,
he send you
I'll
a
look it
link.
up. I'm not familiar with them off the top of my head.
Yeah, no. But the thing is that like once you send him an email, he sends you then a link to join a very a very clean community
Mhm.
conservative community in their Discord channel, and they sift in all the trolls and all the all the
Right.
libtards and greentards and all those woke cancel culture and all those
Yeah.
the ones who kind of like
No, well,
believe.
there's people who that's their job online is they're paid to
Yeah,
literally be trolls and shills.
yeah, whether if it's bots or sock puppets, you don't even know, like, because some of
Right.
them, you sometimes you got even on Facebook and Twitter and all those other, it's not even social media anymore, it's like a espionage platform. But the thing is, like, when
Yeah.
Big Brother's watching every move, it could be even the smart device that I'm talking from you right now, they're listening to every word we say.
Oh yeah.
And like, as long as it's not like a level 5 trigger word, like, so they let the conversation go on. But if you
Right.
say the wrong, I don't know, back then there was 100, 120, now there's tens of thousands of
Oh
them.
yeah, yeah. It's
Oh, yeah.
real. It's real. So I just want to get back to the topic a little bit. So you have two daughters.
Yeah.
Do you want them to um, grow up, get married, and have families in the UK?
Well, well, it's kind of like a complicated uh, answer to give. Like, I do want them to get married. I do want them to have families. Um, but even if it's going to be in the UK or anywhere else in the world for that matter, um, it's going to have to be
But the
with,
UK is
look,
going to be ground zero for what's coming.
sorry.
The UK is going to be ground zero for what's coming.
Well, definitely, yeah. We were the first one to go in, but also the first one to go out. So there's a lot of places, especially being part of the Five Eyes, which is
Yeah,
UK,
when the
US,
US
Canada,
dollar
New
falls,
Zealand.
I mean, England's going to get hurt a lot.
I know that. I
Yeah.
know. Trust me. I know that's the 70s over here, pre and post the alleged Iron Lady Margaret Thatcher that
Right.
everybody seemed to admire over here, but she doesn't really even know. I think she was fooled and conned to begin with, uh, to kind of like privatize everything,
Hmm.
uh, for her buddies in the private sector. When I spoke with one of the really old timers over here, he's like over 90 years old, like he's also in the precious metal industry, but he's kind of like more like antique kind of trader, and but also he's into precious metals. He used to tell me, like, listen, you're never gonna hear it in public, but back in the days of Margaret Thatcher, and especially before, the banking industry, the public transportation, a lot of industries, the textile, the iron industry, everything that's been outsourced towards the east.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um,
That's
basically,
not coming back.
yeah, it was owned by the state. It was owned by the state. And the thing is that, like, they was making even the water pipelines, the gas
Hmm.
pipelines, you just name it.
Yeah, they were all utilities, public
Exactly.
utilities. Right.
But the thing is, back in the days, they were, everything was kind of like a fixed price, if it makes sense. And what they
Mhm.
used to charge is basically just the building of the infrastructure, the
Mhm.
maintenance of the maintenance of the infrastructure.
Yeah, like to cover
And
the costs and stuff.
yeah, exactly. But then, like, maybe a pinch of something that requires to manufacture, like, let's say, gas or
Mhm.
electricity, and or coal or whatever it is you want to think of.
Yeah.
But water, I mean, since when the fuck do you charge for water, that things that like used to fall out of the sky for free? Now they're also coming out with fucking stupid legislation and regulation that, like, if you install rainwater
Oh yeah,
catchers
yeah,
with
yeah.
purifiers in certain countries, in certain states, even in the state side, then you're breaking the law. I mean, fuck you. Like, who made you, like, owners of this planet, like,
Yeah.
to personally carve, like, you put your own private
Owners of the
birthday cake?
clouds and the condensation and the rain and
Yeah, even that they poisoning with their chemtrails,
right.
but say it publicly, and then again, you're being branded by as a conspiracy theory, not job. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly. Yeah, but You know what? Jim said it perfect. I couldn't say it better myself. He used to say, uh, if you don't have the brain capacity even to examine a theory, even if you think it's a conspiracy theory, then like, you got rocks in your head, you got nothing in your head. And I think he's right about that. But
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would add we're just and I'll stop here, Dave. I don't want to go off track, but it's like we're not allowed to ask questions anymore at all.
no,
Don't
fuck it.
ask a question.
No,
Don't ask a question, whether it's basic, advanced, whatever. They don't want us thinking at all. Just keep your mouth shut, be a drone, and pay your taxes.
I gotta tell you that kind of like that's even worse off than the fucking mafia behavior. Even the mafia have a kind of like a conduct of behavior or moral code. Like, and then we're talking about organized crime over here. If the government surpassed that, like just do this, do that, or I mean,
Yeah,
like
I mean, I'm not condoning the mafia, but I mean, you're right. There's a
no,
certain
neither am I. I was just
loyalty is a great
silly
example. Like even the mafia values loyalty.
loyalty, and they got lines in the sand you don't cross.
Right. And they make it clear, by the way, if you don't cross this line, you're cool.
Yeah, we're
If
cool.
you cross this
We're not
line,
gonna
I already told you and made it clear, then you're up Shit's Creek. But that
exactly.
was your doing. That was your
But
choice.
the governments, the puppet politician who answer to their puppeteers, like
The line does
it's
this.
exactly. They're like just stay in single file, do as you told, don't ask questions.
Yeah.
It's for your you know, it's kind of like if and when we get there, I'll give you some information if you want to about my background, and like it will give you a notion of what I'm talking about, because it came to a ridiculous point that I saw not just like posted videos or something that I overheard. Like I saw physically in the fucking streets. It's like during the 2.5 years when they fucking lock us in our private cages for another form of the flu or common head cold for a little
Unbelievable, man.
coof. So they locked us in, and I saw the paramilitarized police literally breaking elbows and bones and strapping and handcuffing to the point that the wrists of people was bleeding. Yeah. And it's all for your fucking safety. I mean, give me a fucking break. If that, look, I'm ex-military and ex-police force, obviously not within the UK, but like, listen, do you really want to know what a real pandemic, if that alleged virus was so deadly and so wildly spread, you would have seen, let's put it this way, you would have seen and bear with me, try to visualize it within the back of your mind. Basically you would have seen falling and rolling bodies in the streets, like
Oh,
7
yeah.
over here, 15 at the bank,
Oh, yeah.
in the grocery store, left, right, and center, because that's what a real epidemic looks like.
Like the Spanish flu or whatever, just people dropping everywhere.
Well,
Exactly.
if we're going to look at it optimistically,
Epidemic.
all of those other things that you were talking about before, about how the people didn't stand up and say no to the government, could this be the catalyst where people now going forward start saying, I no longer believe you. I don't trust you.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not,
you see,
I'm not going to do it. Or are we just lost as a society at this point?
you're right. Right now, well, for quite, not just now, for quite some time, I would say you brought this up first since 9/11. They were going after the Constitution, and gradually they were nuking the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights one after another, and they climb up the ladder until the point of like certain groups uh, in the States just said like, listen, okay, like you climbed your way all different amendments, but the First and Second Amendment are not negotiable. End of. That's it. Like, I mean, and but you gotta
Shall
realize,
not be infringed, right? I mean, it's pretty simple.
yeah, and it's not open for interpretations. Like
Right.
it is what it is. Just take it as it is. End of story. And the thing is, I think that not only it's an anchor for the rest, the United States Constitution, that is, it's an anchor for the rest of the free world.
Oh yeah.
But the thing is, they've been nuking it gradually, stage after stage,
Yep.
manipulating through that bloody television programming people to believe that everything they say and do, it's for their own safety. I don't really remember. I remember the quote. I just don't really remember who said it. I think it was either Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
Well,
The tree of liberty.
No, not
Oh.
that quote. Again, don't take my word for it, but it could
I
be
think I
someone.
know where you're going, though. Keep going.
Yeah.
I think so.
People who given away something in the order of
Benjamin Franklin. People who give up.
exactly,
People who
and they
give
have
up
that
the security for freedom deserve neither.
deserve neither. They deserve none of it. So
Yep.
if you sacrifice your liberty and freedom to gain a portion of security,
Mhm.
like a little bit of security, you deserve none of it.
Yeah.
You deserve none of it.
Yep. Yep.
Because like you
Well,
basically
it's kind of like that's, and it's, we were talking about relationships and dating, and it's all like Dan said earlier, it's all linked together.
A lot of it's intertwined. Yeah. Yeah.
and,
Man,
and,
it's-
and you know why? You know why? Because let's start from the fundamentals. Let's say, how should I put it? Not just the the core of it, the essence.
What's the
Um,
core of any society? We were talking about it before you jumped on. What is the ultimate basic building block?
the
You know,
family nucleus, the family core.
100%.
So
So if I want to knock the house down, I go after the foundation.
exactly, and I think I started to. I came on board the live stream, I think, on YouTube, and then David wrote like basically the link is over there, so jump over there. So basically, like we can speak freely instead of like being, I don't know, censored or cut midstream on YouTube, because that's what it came down to apparently nowadays. Um, so
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, okay, so you got the family core, you got the wife, the husband, which will eventually turn in due time to a mother and father. Now, several of these families eventually create a community. Several of those communities eventually create a village or a settlement or a little town.
Boom, boom,
Several towns create a city. Several cities create a metropolis. Several metropolises create a megalopolis, like kind of like, and so on and so forth. But the moment you kind of like abolish and you play role and you play kind of like Ganib Ganop, yeah, with the family core, and
Yeah.
suddenly
It's like playing Jenga.
exactly. So
Yeah.
basically you take off the patriarchy, yeah, and replace it with the matriarchy of the local Karens, the white wine moms and shit. Then what happens is basically all the men
100%.
becomes allegedly toxic, and masculinity is a problem. Oh, fuck off, come on. I mean, sorry, if masculinity is a problem, you saying masculinity is a problem right now, but like, let's say, if you're so tough, how come in almost like 80% of the cases when there's wars, who does it send to fight?
Well, yeah, spot on. And I'm sorry to interrupt you. I mean, look, if I want to control you, sorry for the crudeness,
No, it's fine.
I'm going to cut your balls off. That's what they're doing.
Yeah,
When you
exactly.
destroy masculinity and you destroy the patriarch, you then destroy your competitor.
Exactly.
You then have nothing to fear. Now I can control you. I'm running the show now because there ain't nothing left to put up a fight.
Because those they're not even genuine feminists who want
Right?
equal
You hear what I'm
rights.
saying? I've eliminated. Where are all the warriors? I've eliminated them. I don't have to worry about them because
Yes.
all that's left is a bunch of, and I'm sorry for the crudeness,
Exactly.
soy boys, feminine guys, she-males, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to worry about those people.
They're not just soy boys or feminine guys. They're all those granola boys and
Yeah.
like you know like kind of like all those like
Yeah.
like you know one time.
I'm not John Wayne. I'm not brave. I'm not a tough guy, but I can tell you, you know,
But you're tougher than them. You're tougher than they are. That's for sure.
a little
That-
bit, slightly. And, you know, exactly. So you eliminate the men, and right?
And
then you
compare
have three
compare
generations of boys that don't know how to be a man. It's game over.
yeah, and compare these people today to the greatest generation who fought the World War, right?
Right.
Now they were asleep in many ways, but they were tough and they did their duty.
They did their duty, but you got a point there. They kind of like fell asleep on their watch, and that's part and parcel what we hear. What we find ourselves in the situation we are
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
I think there's truth to
After
that.
World
I
War
do.
II, they let it go off the rails.
I'll tell you why, because they're on that alleged systemic drug of like, okay, we went through this. Now we're enjoying a time of prosperity, of you know we're making money. We everything's
Happy
cool. Everything,
families, etc.
yeah. But slowly, because you got to remember that this whole grand design go over a century back.
Oh yeah.
Like this whole thing go over a century back by
Least.
yeah exactly by certain wealthy families and alleged royalties that are splinter groups of the previous Roman Empire, you know, the fallen one, and
Yeah.
like before, during, and after the split of like you know there was the Roman Empire, and then there was the split between the Eastern Roman Empire to the Western one, and the different
Right.
legions. So, what do you think all those European monarchies all about? They came from that bloodline, and all those Khazarian Nazis that basically like people tend to think, and I actually come from a Jewish heritage, but like I'm not like an Orthodox conservative. I don't have to be a part of a organized group or a cult
Well, most
in
Jews
order
are
to
Ashkenazi Jews.
whatever Sephardi,
Yeah.
Ashkenazi,
Yeah.
like you know what, I don't have to be part of that in order to believe in a divine entity, to believe in God, the creator of the universe. And whether if he had one prophet, two prophets, or three prophets, or several of them, yeah, from different angles and different points of in history, again, that's really debatable, or maybe it isn't. Maybe they're all true. Maybe it's like different segments of the same story in different timelines. Again, that's religion. That's a different topic. But what I'm trying to say is that like all those Khazarian Nazis that go back, like cut a path through the ages, like centuries, like decades and centuries, like I believe more than one even. Um, they literally further a dynasty that like kind of like used very very cunning, very sinister methods in order to basically to maintain the status quo. And in time, when technology evolved, it's only gotten worse because we kind of like forgot. Well, when I'm saying we, I don't mean us three. I'm talking about like the vast majority of
Yeah.
humanity in the
Humanity at
Western
large.
side.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you, as a father with two girls, what is this going to do for them? How is it? I mean, are they going to be able to live a normal life?
To be honest with you, I'm hoping for the best, but I'm preparing for the worst, and I'll tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
They might be able to, but I'm already explaining to them. I know it's kind of like sound horrible and harsh,
Right,
but even from a young,
for a 7 and a 5-year-old.
yes, but I am telling them there will be a point in time when not too long from now, then that you girls are gonna have to adapt to a different lifestyle, and mommy and daddy are gonna have to work extra hard, not just outside like the everyday battle of like working and producing and providing and making money, earning money, like paying the bills and so on and so forth.
Yep.
And then like basically I'm just trying, like, I'm not trying to tell them, like, I'm not trying to kind of like let them down by telling them, obviously it will never come to be like to the point of like, okay, so today there's a food on the table, tomorrow there'll be slightly less, and in 2 or 3 days time we might have none. No, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. But I am telling them, like, listen, we might have to cut back on some fun times,
Yep.
in certain weekends.
Yep.
We might have to cut back on some toys that you want.
Yep.
Because, you know, like, I don't know, all those commercialized action figures,
Yeah.
especially nowadays with all the gender confusion that they shoving down. Again, the woke
Yeah.
cancel culture.
Yeah.
Like,
You know what the most popular toy at Christmas this year?
No.
The G.
surprise me.
Yeah, the G I don't know doll.
Oh, come on. Man, you know what? There's certain things, you know what?
Are you
I even
kidding?
told,
Yes, I'm kidding.
Gee, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if they had it, but when we were growing up, the big toy was the GI Joe doll.
I,
It was
I,
a big
remember.
army soldier. It was an army figure
He
soldier.
was an army soldier.
So
I
I
had
call-
the GI
so I
Joe
call-
with the kung fu grip.
Yeah, so I call it today it's the G I don't know doll.
The G, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Can I wear the pink khakis
You
with the fruit juices?
And I'll put
Yeah.
lipstick on.
You know, it's actually
Yeah.
we us three, and I'm pretty sure other men, genuine alpha type men, and then like kind of like confident men who don't need any recognition or validation from no one because they don't take shit from no one. Yeah. Hope that's acceptable to saying on the red tube or whatever they call it. But
Yeah.
but
You
the
mean
thing
being
is,
politically correct statements?
no, come on, like we're way past that. I'm
Yeah.
so sick and tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I
way
mean, we're never looking for a fight or anything like that. Never advocating violence or anything like that.
definitely not.
Never.
But
But at the same time,
we won't be silent.
if you gotta make a stand, and if you're back to the proverbial line or corner, not looking for it, not starting it, don't want to hurt anybody. But if you have to go there, God forbid. And I'm not saying I'm a warrior. I'm not saying Dave's a warrior, but a real warrior understands. A real warrior doesn't want to go to war. That's what people don't understand, because a real warrior knows what it means. That means the shit hits the fan. That means the gloves come off. That means you go from 0 to
I can
100.
tell you.
That means
So
you flick the light switch.
So hand on heart, I can tell you that.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, war
And
is
a real
hell.
warrior knows that. Okay.
Yes, war is hell. War is hell.
It's hell, and you don't want it. But if you have to go there, it's like, God Almighty, really?
Especially if it's in the sake for the children, for the next generation, for them to survive.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't want civilians and
People in
your
Europe
grandmother and kids.
People in Europe
Jesus.
don't remember that. I mean, London, France,
Yeah,
Germany, Italy. They were
Italy,
all
my
destroyed.
people.
They were
Yeah,
all
the beatings
destroyed.
they took.
I mean, that's why I think the United States is trying to do what it's doing, because
Dan, I'm sorry to tell you, but Italy, like, is still taken to some degree, but they draw a line in the sand by saying we will not be the next Greece. Like,
Right.
you remember what happened to Greece back then, right?
Oh yeah.
With the whole, like, I remember things. It's just
Butchered.
yeah, but even wealthy people, I'm talking about with millions or tens of
haircuts.
millions,
Yeah.
like, didn't have access to their funds. They were limited to 60 to 80 euros a day, like having to choose between medicine to
Oh my
food, like, or vitamins.
That's unbelievable. I can't imagine that.
Cyprus was a test case. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember Cyprus. Yeah, that was what a nightmare. What a nightmare.
Yeah,
Well,
and imagine that now. Not take it and multiply it by I don't know 1,000% or 1,000 folds or whatever number you want to slap on it, and bring it home to the States. Bring it home to the States, and And tell me what you think then. Like when all those treasury bonds, when all those printed dollars, when all
Well,
those
it's already happening. It's already
It's
happening.
already-
Russia got rid of their
Oh,
dollars,
God.
and now as more and more countries start trading in other currencies or in commodities,
Yeah.
they
Yes.
don't need the US dollars. I mean, eggs, I mean, England had this huge shortage of eggs over the holidays, right? And hams, and you couldn't even get certain food.
to some
don't
degree,
fight.
but also remember that in some states, they also like in the US side, they also got that too. There's actually a joke going on about it, like eggs are the new Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you ever watch Greg at Silver Liberties. We have him on the channel sometimes.
Yeah. He's
Actually, that's another channel that have been nuked. Silver Liberties.
Well,
That's
they
another YouTube channel that
they
have been
yeah, they did. They went to Patreon because they were having YouTube block their videos, so they just
I
went to
know.
Patreon.
Is that the guy that every time he's doing his broadcast and his analytic with the charts and everything, analysis with the charts and everything, he's got these two cute dogs with him? Is that the one?
That's
No,
Greg.
I don't.
No, that's not Greg. Greg
Greg
brings
has-
his dog in once in a while. No.
What?
No, come on. You said Silver Liberties. I remember the name
Right.
of that
Silver
channel.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'll have him on. I'll have him on in the next week or two or three or something like that.
Sure, why not? Why not?
Greg's good. Yeah, Greg's a good analyst.
Yeah.
Good
But
tech
why
analysis.
did I bring him up? I forget.
In relation back to the original line of the conversation, because again, apologies for the.
Oh, but
you know,
he trades eggs. No, he
that-
buys eggs and he sells them. He buys powdered eggs and he sells them.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh.
He bought a case of
Wow.
powdered eggs for like $10 a jar, and he sold them for like $100 each. That's how much eggs went up.
that's insanity.
Something crazy.
expression.
Kind of like what you're doing with the coins, you know.
But that's not the only thing. I'm not just look in relation to eggs. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. But besides
yeah.
gold and silver, I'm obviously over here in England, the UK as a whole. But like you know, the rules, especially in relation to when it comes to gun rights or stuff like that, are way stricter than any
Right.
Oh,
deep
yeah.
deep dyed blue state you can find in the stateside.
Britain, absolutely. You can't do squat, right?
You know what?
You can have a hunting rifle, right?
No, you can have a hunting rifle and I think there's only two types. I think the Winchester shotgun hunting rifle, and you gotta have a special license for that. And even if you're carrying a pistol, it has to be kind of like, I don't know about
Like
the
a
make or the
22?
brand, but it has to be in a color of silver to be distinguished between law enforcement, which is black
All right.
color, to this like.
And what's the rifle? Is it a 1918 bolt action?
It could be a bloody musket or what's the name of it?
Exactly. I'm being a wise guy.
Yeah.
It's going back to musket
Well,
balls.
if you can get a shotgun, definitely get a shotgun.
Well,
That's an effective weapon.
I think they doubling down and tripling down on everything over here, just like they did in their just like they did in their
Germany?
Commonwealth colonies, Canada, New Zealand,
right.
Australia.
Yep.
Don't forget also the States. They never. I viewed the States not the first colony of the British Empire, but definitely the largest one, because us, we, whatever you want to, we never. The stateside never really shook off the British grip on their kind of like soil. You remember when the British the fight with the British, when people migrated, and like, who formed the Confederation in the Civil War to begin with? Who funded it?
Well, the Brits were definitely there.
Well, the Brits were seriously considering supporting the South, if that's what you mean. The Confederate.
Yes, but
they
looking
they
backward,
were the largest trading partner of the South as well.
Right. But they actually didn't support them, from what I understood. but they were damn close to supporting them during the war.
To be honest, I think they did back then what they did to us in the last 3 years. Well, not just them. Like in a general sense, the powers that be,
Yeah.
they kind of like they took the conservative. Okay, so basically they took the liberals and the left, and they give them the Green New Scam. Yeah, and then they took the conservatives, they give them the QAnon thing, and then they played them both.
Yeah, divide and conquer.
Exactly. You see, so I think that's exactly what they did. But some people say, some historians or even experts says, looking back then, they say even Abraham Lincoln was a sellout. He he basically he got played, he got manipulated, he did what he did, and then when he realized that he got played and manipulated, he wanted to kind of like flip again to go to the right way, and then basically that's when they assassinated him.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
hired
this-
someone.
Yeah. Well,
I think that John Wilkes Booth of back then is the more modern Lee Harvey Oswald, if that makes sense. A
yeah.
patsy.
Well, they always. Dan and I have talked about this. The powers that be, I mean, they're real. They're organizations that have been around millennia, and
Definitely, that's
the-
a definitely.
the advantage of being around that long is imagine if you never died. You lived to be forever. Imagine when you got to be 500, 600, 700, 800 years old.
Or even
Imagine-
1,000 years, to your point, Dave. Yeah.
Dan, hold on.
Yeah.
How much knowledge would you accumulate and experience that you would look at a scenario and you would know what's going to happen before it happened, because people never change, just the names.
But even if they do change, you never give them the opportunity to change, because you're ahead of the game by millennia. Just like you said, you already know what they're going to do before they
Oh,
themselves
exactly.
know.
They have the playbook. They
Exactly.
have my name's Dave, he's Dan, but 100 years ago, he was Guido, and I was,
Father Guido Sarducci.
Aiden, whatever.
It's
Yeah, and
Exactly.
and so they know. I mean, every one of us, I'm sure you've taken these tests in schools that determines your personality and this. They can peg us in a round hole, a square hole, triangle,
The
And
personality
then they know-
type is cataloged.
and then they know how to play it.
It's cataloged.
And so that's the type of, and now with computers, we are so far behind. We have zero chance to. It's like trading against these computers today. Forget about it. You might as well just take a dart and throw it at the board. And it's
Well, wait
and
till
so-
AI really kicks in.
so I don't
and-
know if Big Fella's still on the stream, but him and I have debates on this. I mean, he thinks it's already ball game over, and I agree with him to a certain extent. It's all we can do is take care of our inner circle at this point, because society in whole. I mean, Dan disagrees with me, but I left the United States because the United States.
I know. I watched your transition into Mexico. I watched those as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, United States is the Titanic. It's gone. It's already mortally wounded. It's just a question of when is it going to go under the water. And it was. Is it sad? Yes, but it's our responsibility as, like you said, as alpha men. It's dealing with reality. It's not
Yes.
dealing with.
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
I wish it was different. Hey, wake up.
Listen,
it's what's
to be honest with you,
reality.
if I could, and actually, I am married and only once, but before I got married, obviously, just like any other, whether if it's my early mid 20s and end 20s and all the way to my early 30s, just like everyone, I was focused on like another opportunity of making money and chasing poon and having fun and
Right.
whatnot.
Right.
But I gotta tell you, man, today is just like I'll just give you a quick example, and then again just a quick U-turn to the original topic of the conversation. I'm like, there was one time that I was at this kind of like to some degree not trashy but not high end bar, kind of like somewhere in the middle when they serve good drinks and food and so on and so forth. And there was me and two other guys securing that venue, and I was the head doorman, you know, like kind of like the head of security. Like basically, you go over there, you go over there. Anything comes up, we shout each other at the radio with the earpiece and everything. Um, and okay, so there was the general manager, obviously in the office, you know, doing his thing, and there was two young ladies. It's called kind of like a assistant general manager. It was a weekend, and it was next to London Bridge, and it was packed over there. Okay, it was packed.
Mhm.
So there was it's actually quite funny. I'm going to try to kind of like cut it short, like, but basically there was one guy who got had one too many to drink, and the assistant general manager comes to me and said, like, listen, this guy had one too many. He got to go. He's about to puke. He's about to vomit any moment now. So he kind of like partially have already on the floor. So they call the cleaners and everything. So I'm kind of like, okay, are you a right, buddy? And I'm like, you know, there's no necessity. Just like Dan said earlier, uh, the only ones who know how to kind of like when self defense or violence is necessary, when isn't, is a genuine fighter, a warrior, a genuine man. And that's when it's not, if I can diffuse it verbally with a common
Yes.
sense, I
Exactly.
will do it. But
Exactly.
we're not advocating for violence, but if it comes our way, we know how to deal with it. I don't have a problem to apply force on force if I have to defend myself and my loved ones.
Exactly.
The problem is nowadays the culture is so messed up that basically in order to avoid offending the criminal, it's easier to blame the victim. Now, back to the story. There was like two staircases, and come. I'll help you outside because basically you need some fresh air. And I'm taking him outside, and I'm helping him down the stairs, making sure he doesn't go woozy and falling off, one way or the other. I'm taking him outside. And I was like, listen, just stay here, lean against the wall. I'll be right back. And then I go to the bartender, and I'm telling her, listen, I'm not sure if you know me or not, but like I was hired to secure the venue today, and I'm showing him my badge of basically over here. It's called the SIA. Not
Mhm.
Don't be confused, not CIA, SIA, Security Industry Authority.
Mhm.
So basically, you have to go to a state-approved institution to get that badge. That you got different badges, and then you can actually do the job.
Mhm.
So I'm going outside with two half-a-liter disposable cups. Of like one of them is with water, and the other one with sparkling water or with soda with some thin slice of lemon in it. So use the water to wash your mouth and your nose and everything, and even your face if you need to. And then after you got everything outside, just drink this. It will make you feel a hell of a lot better. That way you won't keep on vomiting. And then you won't believe what happened. I got this disgusting. Forget about outside appearance. You know what? That's not even a factor. But this woke, retarded blob of a chick coming outside. Excuse me, who are you? And I'm like, I'm the head of security of the venue. Like, we're securing the place. I'm just making sure this guy's okay. No, because he's my friend. I just want to know, like, who are you and what you're doing over here? I'm saying, just like I said, I just literally told you who am I and what am I doing here. And then there was like three guys and three gals, and like the other guy, his friend or his cousin or something like that, came outside and he's like telling her, listen, back off. He's like the head of security. He's actually helping him.
Exactly.
Um,
Hello.
yeah, and she goes like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I was just, literally verbatim, word for word. I was just worried because nowadays masculinity is a problem."
Yeah.
I was speechless.
That's where we're at. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, like you do realize you're in kind of like central London, in London Bridge, and I could have been kind of like, I wouldn't say a savage because that's not the right
Yeah.
terminology for that kind of situation.
Yeah.
But and there's nothing, by the way, wrong being a savage in certain situations. But um, you do realize I could have been rude because my job is to make sure everybody comes safe, stays safe, and leaves safe. I could have just escorted him out of the venue. Not of my problem.
You didn't have to be delicate, right?
Exactly. He could have once he's outside, as I've been asked to escort him outside. It's none of my effing problem. I don't care. I went the extra mile to make sure the guy is safe.
Yeah, man. You were congenial, man.
As they say, no good deed goes unpunished.
Hey, Dave.
Exactly.
We have
Exactly.
been thrown out of bars physically back in the
Oh
day,
yeah,
so we know. We
actually,
know
that story.
that
I
you were
thought
delicate.
I thought you were gonna. I thought he was going to say the guy with the vomit was Dan.
Yeah. No,
So
you were delicate, dude. Where we're from, trust me, we would have been whoosh.
Oh yeah.
but
Have a nice
listen,
day.
but listen to this. Listen to the peak of it. Like then like and listen. There's no place or there's no bunch of people that are more dangerous than nowadays university students. If you want to, if you want to get canceled or shouted upon or be called a microaggression, blah blah this, blah blah.
I don't even know what that means, bro. But
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, exactly,
I don't even know
exactly.
what the frig that
It,
means.
it, it just word salad. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
Those words
right.
doesn't mean jack.
Well, they don't even know what they're saying.
Yeah, it's like
The
what is
problem
that?
is they have these See, if you are a university and the government says we're going to guarantee that students can take out loans up to $100,000 and they're never going to have to be able to discharge them, universities are going to charge $100,000. They're going to keep raising their prices.
Whatever they want.
And,
Of course, why not? Why not?
so what happens is they have so much money, and they have and today they don't even have to educate you. What is a degree in early childhood education going to get you, or in gender studies, or in African history, right? Who cares unless you have a very specific.
How is it? How is it going to land you a job in the change in the new economy? In the new economy, or in the change of a paradigm, whether if
Yeah.
it's gender study or political science and ancient Egyptian pottery or
Yeah.
non-binary gender study. How is it going to land you a job? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like tranny story time, talking with
What are
five
the
and
hard skills? Exactly. Training story time, like what happened 3 months ago with a bunch of kindergartners, and then at the end of it, you get to expose your genitals, right?
Yeah, no. And you know what that I don't know if it's true or false. Maybe you guys are much well informed than I am, but just tell me it ain't true, because I think that the pre-bought and paid for media, the corporate media, trying to convince us that we are in the minority when
Yes.
they actually like it's the other way around, because I think it's hard to wake up some of the normies, so I think we actually in the majority, it might not be the vast majority, but the majority, um and they but even if you're going to tell me that 20, 25, 30, let alone 30% of I don't know, the Western atmosphere, civilized, like like population, like civilization in a general sense, or even just the United States. If you're gonna tell me that 20% of the United States of America citizens and or residents or whatever are okay with transsexual, whether if it's a man who uh, identifies a woman and turn himself from one way or another to a woman, even though he can't. Either you're XY or XX. End of story. That's it. It doesn't matter how you can identify yourself as a fucking basketball for like here like a.
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
make you-
40 years ago, up to 30 years ago, the policy was don't ask, don't tell. And people, obviously throughout time, there have been gay people, but it's and it's not meant to be rude, but people outside the norm are called deviants, right? And it's because they deviate from the norm. And
come on.
in a
Sorry about
society,
Statistically speaking, that's true.
and in a society, you don't worry about so what has happened is the way it happened was it started back in Boston, actually. The St. Patrick's Day parade, the gays wanted to march in the parade, so they canceled the parade. They canceled the parade. And people who ran the Boston parade, they're like, fuck these guys, let's cancel the parade instead. So they
You want to hear
canceled it.
something actually funny? If you look at like
St.
gay,
Patty's Day.
gay men or lesbian women or bisexual that go with both men and women, because I live in a tribe when there's only two genders, men and women. If other people want to live in a tribe that like with 16,987 genders and counting, that's their problem. I couldn't care less about this. But in a general sense, even if you go back in time several millennia, since the days of the ancient Greek, the ancient Greeks, you used to have some boy lovers, like kind of like
course.
men.
Alexander the Great.
So what I'm trying to say is like you had men with men, women with women, or bi, or
All
even
kinds of weird shit. Yeah.
even pedophilia and hebnophilia. But the thing is, it wasn't in your face,
Right.
and they knew, like in back then they had kind of like a bathhouses, kind of like shaped in a coliseum, but it wasn't in the public. It was kind of like private rooms. Kind of like imagine yourself kind of like a back in the days, kind of like mini jacuzzi or sauna. What would you imagine today as a jacuzzi or a sauna?
Mm-hmm.
So basically that what it was, you had it since back then, but they weren't abused,
It was
or maybe
discreet.
they were, but they weren't in your face. It
Right.
was discreet,
Very discreet.
and they weren't using it in order to leverage themselves as a protected class. Nowadays, 20% of the population in the States, I'm not sure if it's true or not, the statistic figure, but again, if the number is even true, think it's okay for transsexual man or woman or both or whatever to talk with 5 or 6 years old about their pee-pee. Like, I mean, WTF to that? I mean,
Well, you're seeing the videos now where these parents bring their children to these
peep
parties,
shows. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah, tiny
and
peep
I
shows.
see a parent grab their child and walk out. Now I don't watch I mean, hopefully it's happened.
What's it called?
No, they have these transvestites who do these drag shows in front of these children.
Really?
You've seen them. They're everywhere now.
No, I've not seen it. I've not
No,
seen it.
no.
I'll send you some links on it.
You
Dan.
sent me one video a couple weeks ago. That
Doesn't
one I
matter.
did see.
It doesn't matter. The point I was making before we went off is the whole point was so they at the parade they ended up starting the parade a couple of years ago with the gays in it. Okay, and that was the first parade I think in the country that started incorporating the Queer Patrol, and the reason and back then
I'm telling you.
people were like, hey, who cares? Let's live and let live, right?
Patrol.
And it's the old saying, give an inch, they take a mile. And the problem is everybody thought that one little concession was going to be enough. It's never enough.
It's never enough.
Evil never stops. Okay.
But
And-
David, that's I think in modern age, that's basic human psychology. People will always do what you allow them to get away with. They
Yeah.
know they can get away with it.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what I was going to go into. Is there's a famous poem from World War II. I forget the Russian guy's name, but he said, nobody stood up. If we had stood up, if we had hit them over the head when they came for us, then it wouldn't have led down this path. And you've also heard, I didn't stand up when they came for the trades unionists because I'm not a trade unionist. I didn't stand up when they came for the Jews because I'm not a Jew. And then there was nobody left to protect it. And that's the whole point. Is today we worry about offending somebody when, like you, I mean, if somebody came in and tried to sexually molest your children, are you going to allow that to happen? Well, if
No,
you do,
I'm
if
going
you,
to cut his nuts and feed it to him, and then waiting for it to pass it, and then feed it to him again. That's
and that's what's
Or
going to
you're at
happen.
least That's what's going to, I mean, Plato wrote the 5 regimes and he predicts what happens to forms of government. And what happens is it gets so out of control that it takes a tyrant to come in and put the thumb on everybody to shut it all down. And people at that point are willing to give up their freedom because society is so lost. And we're almost there.
Listen, if I have to go to the equivalent, like a rural area or a forestry or countryside, and build everything from scratch with my family, I will, because as I mentioned earlier, and when I joined the conversation, besides gold and silver, which are money, God's money, um, um, whether if it's in a form of a sovereign minted coin or a generic coin of a private mint, or just a melted casted bar or biscuit or whatever, or even a coin, whatever you want to call it. I'm accumulating at least 12 to 18 months ahead of supply provision. I'm talking about a lot of water, a lot of tin canned food, preservatives, like the canning machine and the vacuum machine, and also a lot of frozen. Like I'm trying to get my hands on a proper, good, long-lasting generator that have like kind of like a fail-safe, that if I'm out of diesel to activate it, then I can deploy the solar panels, or to some degree kind of like give it, or maybe nowadays you got the kind of like the all-in-one. It
Yeah,
diesel.
I don't think being in the UK, you're going to be able to hold on to any of that stuff.
No,
I think,
if I'm far removed from
yeah,
from
but by the
main
time,
cities, I will. I
yeah,
probably will.
the problem is Hemingway wrote a book called The Sun Also Rises, and one of the famous quotes is, "How did you go bankrupt?" And the guy said, "Well, gradually, and then suddenly." And that's what's going to happen here. Is you are not going to have time to even take a step. So those people are like, when it gets really bad, I'm going to go out to the country, get chickens, grow a garden. No, the people who believe that, they're already doing it. They're gone. They're gone. I'm late. I got out of the U. I meant to leave the U.S. a couple of years ago, and I think I might be too late already. But you guys still in your countries? Bye. You're toast.
I agree to some degree, but I think the exaggeration is like, look. Let me put it this way. I don't think, first of all, in your case, you're definitely not late. Uh, we might have still on the clock. We might have 1 or 2 years, if we're lucky, maybe 3. But as we move on, obviously it's going to get from bad to worse, and from worse to cataclysmic. I agree to that extent.
It takes time to set up, though. It takes
But
time.
I know that, but if you think, like, let's say that in a few days, or in 2 weeks, or even a couple of months, you're gonna, I don't know, flip some of your silver. Like, obviously gold is the big buck, like for emergency fund to close a debt, or emergency surgery, or relocate yourself, or for, even if it's for I don't know, in today's world, for bribery just to get out of trouble or whatever it is, yeah, that you didn't cause to begin with. Because
Mhm.
um but if you think that, like, let's say, I don't know, even in 3 to 6 months you're gonna flip your constitutional silver or troy ounces for food in back alleys or in black markets. No, that look, I'm not denying what you're saying. We are heading there, and we don't have much time left. I agree with that statement, but we're not full on there yet. Um,
No, I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying the time for you to get off the train tracks into a safe haven is going to take at least a year, maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years to make that full transition. And that all I'm saying is if people wait until
be
they
so sure, like,
see, if they wait till the boat's underwater, it's too late. It's gone.
obviously, look, I never, and you know what, my wife used to, and still to some degree, have that attitude of like, wait and see. I don't like to wait and see. If I know that a tsunami is gonna coming over here to wash half of this island like in 72 hours, I'm not waiting. I don't know, like for the last minute or 4 hours before it hits. Obviously, I'm gonna grab what I can. What matters is, when first and foremost, children, and get the hell out of here before it hits. But as mentioned many times, not just, again, whether if it's Jim Willie or many other experts, like in the financial, intelligence, political, geopolitical, among them you guys, by the way, um, I can tell you,
Nobody believes it's going to come up. Nobody, and when I say nobody, I'm talking 99% of the people. 99% of the people truly do not believe what I think is coming for the world, for the Western
no, it's not
countries.
what you think it's coming. It's what you know for a fact it's coming. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Well,
But
that's
but
my
the thing,
opinion, right? After the fact, and I won't take any joy in telling Dan when he's stuck in Florida, I told you so.
yeah, but you know what? As opposed to other Americans, Dan is in a relatively safe place because he's got Ron DeSantis as his governor. So, like,
See, I don't trust any of the bastards.
okay.
Yeah.
You know what? You know what? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that, like, let's say, even if he is uh, controlled opposition, let's say, for example, let's say he is controlled opposition and he's just giving it for show. Although I believe the guy is a genuine, he nuked Disney, he nuked the woke, he went berserker mode on everyone, and he's passing legislation
I
like
think
on.
he's the real deal.
And he
No,
promoted the jab. And he promoted the
he
jab.
didn't promote
No,
the
he
jab.
did not. He
He
did not.
sure did.
He's going
Oh,
after the jab people
No,
right now.
back at the beginning. Back at the beginning.
I'm not
So
so sure, but look, like, to be
yeah.
honest with you, at one point or another, he came even to teenagers, like, I don't know, high school, and he went on the stage to like, guys, please just drop the mask. This is ridiculous. He just, I remember the footage and the videos going all around Fox News. You just name, like, obviously, you see, this is part of the manipulation, that kind of like giving people the notion that there's still hope. Somebody out there is fighting the good
Oh
fight
yeah.
for
Well,
you.
you already mentioned it an hour ago when you talked about how communities were formed.
Yeah.
Back then, people didn't rely on the government. They relied on their local communities to take care of their fellow man.
Yes, exactly.
They didn't rely on welfare programs and the Great Society.
but how would you suggest, for example, after decades and centuries, for them, like, bit by bit, nib by nib, they're like chewing on our freedoms and liberty, whether if we want it or not, whether if we're conservatives or and libertarians
Yeah,
versus uh, alleged liberals or
yeah,
whatever
but it's
whatever they want
happening.
to call
Right.
themselves nowadays. My question to you is, back then, let's go back 150, 200 years. Yeah, let's say you were a farmer and I was a fisherman, and let's say I come to you and, listen, David, I got kind of like I had a good day today at the river or the ocean, um, and kind of like I'm gonna give you 9 kilos of different type of fish, and for that I want I don't know, kind of like between 25 to 27 kilos of different fruits and vegetables from your farm, and we agreed to it because that's kind of like the fair ratio we established between you and I, between fruits, vegetables, and fish. Okay, and the same thing that you and I do between us, we do with the one who produced dairy and the one who produced meat and the one who
Mhm.
fixed the leaks in the roof of our cabin or our house or
Yeah,
whatever.
on and on. Economy.
Goods and services. Okay, that used to called free trade.
Mhm.
Today, those fuckers at B labels it as the black market. They even took free trade away from us. So, and everything is regulated, everything is taxed, everything is, even after a person is fucking dead and buried, they tax the hole that he
The
was
estate, yeah.
buried in.
Mhm.
And soon they started to uh, humor themselves and messing around with us with the idea of like starting graves, but not in the ground, within floors. I think it's already existing in certain countries in the world. Like basically that the graves are not going. It's kind of like.
Well, now they just cremate you.
Well, yeah, in some countries they do that too. So the crematoriums, they just cremate the body, and then they give the urn with the ashes to the family to preserve it or to scatter it over some ocean or some, I don't know, somewhere that they think that the person might like it, and it's obscene, and they use all sorts of method to justify the obscene,
Mhm.
um and it's insanity express. But I'm saying, how do you suggest, because just like you mentioned in one of your videos, I think it was in that video in the morning when you went to the local immigration authorities in Mexico and you explain the process to people and how not to get stinged and pay extra or get kind of like.
Yeah, it was a pain in the
So I
balls.
listened.
Yeah.
I listened to that one, the two previous one, and the two follow-ups, and again, just to see, just to check out, and hope, and hopefully you're right, like, and like, because kind of like we're reasonable men, like, so in a way we gotta stick together because in a way it's kind of like make us care for each other, even though you're in one part of the world, Dan is in another, and I'm in completely different one.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that, like, um uh, how do, like, we bring everything we talked about right now into fruition, and you were mentioning earlier it's too late in the game to get out. I,
Well,
I
no, I think if you no, what I meant is if you wait until it becomes obvious, it's too late.
but it is already obvious, and what I think is,
Yeah.
I think they want to push us to the edge, so far to the edge of the cliff, that when push comes to shove, uh, the majority of the population will react the
Well, let
way.
me. Well,
Yeah, go
yeah.
on.
Okay, well, there's two things. Okay, have you ever? Are you familiar with Ayn Rand and her book Atlas Shrugged?
I'm not so sure, to be honest. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
She's well worth reading. It's they even have movies on it now. But her
Okay.
her book, what she talked about is when societies get like our societies are getting, the people who are worth their salt, people who produce more than they take, they leave. They go someplace else, right? And and the second thing that I've talked to Dan about, and I'm pretty sure I've said on these streams as well, is what country were you born in?
Well, it's a bit complicated.
Well,
Uh,
no,
ba-
not the country you're born in. I just want to know the country you're born in.
yeah, well, basically, it's Israel, but like, my grandparents post World War II migrated from different directions, so I'm kind of like a mixture. They migrated, you'll be surprised to know, to the United States.
Okay.
So they migrated to the state of Illinois,
Mhm.
what was known as Chicago, Chicago, the state of Illinois, and nowadays it's Shitcago with the crime rate with what's the name of that mayor over there? Beetlejuice, Lori Lightfoot. Yeah, Beetlejuice. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
she's pretty pathetic.
yeah, I call her Beetlejuice because she looks like Beetlejuice. But anyway,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
so my parents were born there as well, and I think when my mother, as what was she, 22, 23 years old, she was pregnant with me, so they migrated to Israel, to Tel Aviv at first, and then slightly southern of Tel Aviv, 20, 25 minutes from there they migrated down. And most of my life, obviously I was born there, I was raised there. I served the compulsory 3 years in the IDF, Israel Defense
Yeah.
Forces.
Yeah.
I was another 1 year and 2 months in the police force, a detective at the youth department, just before my big leap to the severe crime unit where the adult psychopaths are. My father passed away, obviously, so it was too much to bear on
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to have you on again, and we'll dissect that one because Israel is a very, very interesting place to talk about.
To some degree, yeah, but like you know what? I
Yeah.
think I think there's a lot that can be done to just. I think it's just a case of a privileged few over
Yeah.
there that
Well,
like.
no, I've never been there, so everything that I know is from what I've read and
So
from
I'll
what
give
I've
you a
listened to
quote.
from other people. But we can. I don't want to dive into that today. I just
No,
want
but
to follow up on my point. What
sure,
see
go ahead.
is it's in your family as well, and it's in Dan and our ancestry. It's in everybody's ancestries.
Sure.
People leave countries when they need to find a better life. And
Yes.
I don't know what the heck has happened to people today, but people now think that leaving the United States is a sin, or that leaving England is sin, or Israel, or wherever. The bottom line is your first responsibility
Well, what do
is
you
to
think I left? I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to keep on until the age of 45, arguably maybe even 47, to keep on every year between 3 to 6 months to be called into reserve to fight someone else fucking battles and fighting with my Muslim neighbors just because some group of privileged few regional or global arm dealers supply both ends. Keep shooting, hit, miss. We don't care how many they're, just as long as you keep on fighting, whether if
yeah.
it's with the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, or with Lebanon, or with Syria, with Egypt, with Jordan, or I mean, come
Yep.
on, like,
Never
and
ends.
you know what, even our own, the whole narrative that we grew up on,
Yeah.
everything we learned at school, you're
Mm.
growing up, and as you're growing up, you learn more, and you're getting wiser. So like you discover, holy shit, everything's bullshit. Everything, all the principles and everything I've been told until now
Mhm.
is bullshit. Now obviously when it comes
Bars.
to Israel, just like any other country, the land is beautiful, bountiful. uh just like any other country, you got the good people, you got the kind of like in between 50-50, and you got the assholes. I mean, you, from Colorado Springs to Shanghai, and from, I don't know, from Russia to Mogadishu, or whatever you want to go, every place you're gonna go in the world, you're gonna find good people, bad people, men, women, doesn't really matter. But my main point is, like, one of the uh, Israeli entertainers, he passed away ages ago, but he used to say, uh, "We are a lovely land, but a shitty state, like a country, as a country." But again, we're going back to the original, like, what is the construct of the country? Its people, the families, the communities, the cities, uh, the towns, the cities, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
When you damage the family core, and when you destabilize the patriarchy,
Big time.
exactly. When you destabilize that, when you go after the man, and you
Yep.
cut off his nuts and you try to neuter and kind of like castrate him,
100%.
then what do you think is going to happen? Earlier you mentioned the fact that less and less before I jumped in with comments and then eventually to the live feed. I gotta tell you, you mentioned something about a lot of young men don't get involved in relationships, or they don't go into marriage, and even if they do, they don't want to have anything to do with children anymore. And
Right.
if they do, it's
MGTOW.
kind of like it's kind of like fertility in decline. It's kind of like the old Soviet Union kind of like thing of mother, father, one child, a dog, and a grandma in a living room. I mean, like, what's going on? That back then you used to have families of at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 children, an average family with 2 parents.
Absolutely.
Nowadays you got like statistically 1.2, 1.3
The West. Yeah.
in the West.
I was
So
talking to my cousin today. My grandmother was one of 10 children.
Yeah.
see, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And
My
right now,
grandmother was one of 9.
okay, well,
Who
already,
knows how many there were before some died?
my grandmother, my
Yeah.
grandmother from my mother's side, she was one of, I think, originally one of 15.
Yeah.
2 of them passed before they managed to migrate, like and escape,
Yeah.
And by the way, like when it comes to World War II, like again, not being focusing on my kin, because strip all that away. My father, may rest in peace, he used to tell me, and for me, it's not an opinion. For me, it's a universal truth. I don't care about different shades of white, different shades of brown, different shades of black, redskin, Native American, yellow, Asian. I don't care about religion, ideology, culture, ethnic group. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to find strip all that away. In the end of the day, we're all human beings. And wherever you're going to go, you're going to find good human beings and bad human beings, good elements and bad elements.
Mhm.
So everybody liked to latch on World War II and the Holocaust as like, oh, 6 point something million Jewish people were systematically slaughtered in the death camps, in the working camps. Yeah, okay, people tend to focus on them because they were the only one who systematically killed. But they failed to mention that in World War II, we lost along the range of 126 million souls on this planet.
20 million in
And
Stalingrad alone.
The Russians lost the most, I thought, 25 million.
actually, it's more than that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
over
it was
26
20 in
million.
one city, Dan. 20
Yeah,
million
but
in the city.
imagine
still.
that the Russians lost both in military and civilian population
Right,
over 26
absolutely.
million people.
Yeah, I thought it was 25 million, but yeah, exactly.
No, I'm again, could be that. You know what? When it comes to those numbers,
It doesn't matter.
100,000 more or less, it's
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
Absolutely. No,
Plus,
no,
how can
absolutely. It's
How
incredible.
can you even
amount.
keep a census back then?
but exactly,
That's what
but
they know of. It was probably double that. That's what they know of.
exactly could be that too. But
Yeah.
on top of that, you had let's say 500,000 Polish, 1.5 million Romanian, gypsies,
100%.
Arabs,
Yeah.
Muslim. You just name it. There were so many battles. As like when you come to learn the genuine history as opposed to the rewritten history that we were served in school,
okay.
mid-high
Oh,
school.
yeah.
Basically, just what's suiting the narrative at that time.
100%.
And what I came to realize, even as a great descendant of the sons of Israel, which is nowadays called the Jewish people, I came to realize that nowadays almost everything is fraudulent. JDL, Jewish Defense League, don't care about Jews. BLM, Black Lives Matter, don't care about black people. The feminists don't care about women's rights. If they did care about women's rights, they would have run. It's all about money. Exactly, David. It's all about the money. And let me tell you something else. If feminists really cared about genuine full-on equality, they wouldn't just like running off after all the rights without all the duties. Yeah, makes
Hey,
sense.
to paraphrase Smedley Butler, it's all a racket. It's all a racket.
Yeah, but it will also go into the local legislator and after congressmen and after court system to make sure to amend some of the draconian law heavily favoring the women in order to make sure that they are that like, let's say, when it comes to children custody, when it comes to child support, alimony money, and so on and so forth.
You just described the USA.
Not just the USA, mainly the USA, but not just. You'll be surprised to know then when women take the man, the husband, or the future ex-husband, or whatever it is they want to call it or phrase it as, to the cleaners in the UK, in Israel, it's the same old, well, not really that old, but the same bullshit story, the same
playbook,
thing.
Yeah. Same playbook.
Yeah, absolutely. And 50, let's just be kind. Half the marriages end in divorce. It's more, but we'll just say half.
Yeah.
So
actually it's way more. So you're being generous by saying half.
Yeah.
It's way
In
more.
the US.
Well, what I'm saying is, even if it was a flip of a coin, if you were standing on an altar and said, okay, flip of a coin, she takes my nuts, or, I have a happy life. And maybe half of the marriages who stay together aren't even happy.
To be honest with you, like it's even, there's more to that even than you think. It's like, it's not even about taking your nut. There's so many things you can factor into that equation. Is she gonna cook, or am I gonna eat like microwave dinners for the rest of my life? Is she, and even if she gonna cook, is she gonna cook healthy, or is she gonna block my main arteries before I hit 45?
Yeah.
Is she's gonna take care of the children like I am?
Well, who teaches people about this stuff today? That's the problem.
Nobody.
Is the people to the women today, and it's tied to, it's all like dance. It's all linked together from families, religions, whatever. And the whole point is if your mother is telling your sisters to go out and become doctors and lawyers and cops or whatever, or soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to be the woman?
Yeah.
You see, but that's my point. Like, if you, no, let me tell you this.
That's where we're at, practically.
You got a point there, David. But let me tell you something. If they want to be equal in the eyes of the law, the man-made law, not, look, there's an old saying, you cannot deny God's law. You can only confirm them. You cannot deny God's laws. You can only confirm them.
Good point.
Because when the day of judgment arrive and we'll all eventually reach the afterlife, whatever comes next, whether if it's I don't know, rapture or ascending into heaven or into, everybody will go to their place according to the different scriptures. Maybe they're all wrong, maybe they're all right, maybe it's the same story told in different ways. But my main point is that hold on, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a moment there. But
okay.
sorry, yeah. So here it is. My main point is, you're saying we're equal and we should be equal in the eyes of the law. And I'm not saying you. I'm talking like as a third party for the women. Okay, I can live with that. But in the end of the day, when you coming back home and I'm coming back home, it's not like, okay, I'm banging on the table, I'm the man, and my word is final.
Right.
I'm not coming from that angle, but I won't be talked down to, and you're not gonna go after my nuts, because if you do realize there's repercussions and consequences to that too. I can just pick up sticks and leave, then all the finance, the logistics, and all the rest of it is on you. Let's see you handle that shit when I'm going outside busting my, I mean, like, it's not going to fly. It's not going to pass. Furthermore, biologically, we very we structured very differently. You cannot, and listen, as an ex-military in one of the toughest neighborhoods in the world, I would come and say, and I've seen my fair share of SHIT. Let's put it this way. I trained some of squaddies, female squaddies in the IDF. I can tell you, when we used to run the drills of, like, let's say, like whether if it's a single or a squad of 4 or 8 or a whole team or a whole platoon, listen, I've seen how some of the ladies over there manage quite well, but the majority of them did not. Even when we used to do it on dry, not on wet, dry, or even with blanks, with blank bullets, with the automatic rifles and we used to call them the puck grenades. It's not the real one. It's not the real live one. So basically, like, I saw them like, okay, number 1, open fire. Okay, jump, come, and then she basically, like us men, coming through, one cover another. So like, I've seen some of them had to fall on the ground, and yes, some of them weren't exactly A cup or B or B plus. Some of them were effing double D or something. And for a woman to land on those 2 cushions, it's different. And the way they run, and sometimes it's not because it's not a stress test, but because it's necessary. So you have to carry your rifle, an 8 to 10 magazine. Some of them are double connected to one another. So for quick pull and release.
This shit gets heavy.
Exactly. And some of them used to carry the M203, the grenade launcher. Grenades, exactly, underneath the weapon. So you ending up accumulating somewhere along the line of 50 to 70 kilos on top of your back and your front, and that's without including the body armor, the hive, the ceramic hive that's supposed to stop at least.
The bottom line is, if we're talking,
yes,
generalities, it's not where the women should be.
Exactly. You mentioned the cop, I mentioned the soldier. It's pretty much on the same field.
Well, we're not being sexist and trying to be disrespectful.
No, we're not being sexist. We're not being misogynistic. We're not at all. We're being realistic.
Yeah,
and
exactly. Factual. Dealing with facts.
I mean, the women can be in a military role in an area that doesn't require that. It utilizes their strengths, not their weaknesses.
Exactly. That's correct. Right. Yeah, and some of them did utilize it in a way of, like, different type of technologies, or backing up from the headquarters, or convey messages,
communications, logistics, etc.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't have to be
all important.
Yeah, and they don't have to be on the battlefield. Did you know that in one of the
what does it say about a society that doesn't value its protecting its women?
I agree.
You know what?
And children.
You know what? I'll even top it up with saying, if we cannot protect our women and children, how can we even call ourselves men? I mean,
I was just going to say that. You beat me to it. I mean, what are you?
This is antiquated. I mean, it sounds like 200 years ago, this conversation. That's what they'll say. They'll be like, you have no place in the modern world, guys.
But if I'm a male and I have testosterone, it's just a biological fact, right? And
but they see it as toxic masculinity.
And I have testes, which I do.
This is why guys today are so confused about stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But if we have testosterone like we do, and we have testes, we are by definition and biologically defined, we are a man. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to insult people. And so then you take it a step further. What is the role of a man?
Yeah, exactly. But you're not insulting anyone. You're just stating the fact.
Exactly.
A fact is a fact. It's not negotiable or debatable.
It's
It's just like the
empirical
air we breathe
by
right now.
nature. 2
That's
plus
it.
2 is 4. It's not 3.9. It's not 4.1. There's no way
Exactly.
around it.
Exactly. But they trying to convince you. You know what? I'm just going to tell you that the devil's hand have been busy,
Big time.
and they managed to bring humanity almost to its knees by discombobulating and confusing. They already effectively status quo. They already sacked 2, potentially 3 generations.
100%, dude. Spot on, bro. Look, I don't want to say.
That's what we were talking about when you came on.
I'll just
Yeah.
speak for myself. I mean, are we? Are we all? I don't want to be disrespectful, but exactly, they're harping at us as if we're totally weak-minded, and I guess some are. I don't want to be disparaging. I'm not saying I'm strong-minded, but what the fuck, right? I mean, what the fuck?
But think about it. If
Sell yourself short, like, man, I've seen some back in the days, like some of the point you brought forth, and some of the questions that were pretty wise. Like, listen, we're men. End of story.
Astounding.
You know. By the way, have you noticed something? This is something also, like, I'm gonna put it in a sidebar,
Yeah.
just for you folks to get where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Do you are you familiar with, like, the kind of like the 2 sides of, like, guys night out, girls night out, kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so notice how it is. I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying, in most cases, when
Exactly.
you have girls night out, so you got a bunch of, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 7 ladies, different.
Yeah.
Some of them are single, some of them divorced, some of them are married. Doesn't matter, it's a mix. So they going out for the local pub or bar or nightclub or whatever to have a few drinks, or even to Applebee's or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
To have a few drinks and maybe grab a bite, and they're like, okay, they're having a laugh. And when they're together, they're like going at each other. Oh my God, I love your lipstick and your nail varnish, and who did your hair and everything. And the moment Tracy leaves, then
they rip her
Tiffany
apart.
and the third goes, "Oh my God, I hate her. She's such a bitch." Like, I'm like, yeah. So okay, so that's the majority of cases of women. Yeah.
That's
And
women.
I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying all, but
But the general nature, let's face it.
yeah, gossip. The moment 1 or 2 of them leave the table, and there's, like, out of the 7, the 5 left, so they're starting to trash talking and gossiping. I heard that she got, like, a problem in her marriage, and they had to take a second mortgage on the house, and all that fucking unnecessary bullshit. You won't believe it. By the way, it's also here in the UK, only in a different manner, and also in a very kind of like how should I say it? Separated and segregated communities. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
The ones who say we should be that and that, but then they go against their own advice. But us guys, for example, let's say us 3, we're gonna go out and grab a few, I don't know, pints of beers and stuff like that, and
Exactly.
we're gonna be joined with another group of 4 that we kind of like know. Or so let's say for instance, me, like, where, hey, motherfucker, what are you doing here? Come here. Like, I haven't seen you for a long time.
Absolutely.
How's your old man, you bastatucci, and stuff like that and everything. And once one of us walks away, and we're kind of like, we're gonna go, like, let's say Dan. Dan is kind of like, he's busting our balls, and he's kind of like, having a laugh at our expense. But I like him. I like the guy. I like him. Like, kind of like, I feel we got a connection and everything. And it's the complete opposite. And furthermore, even if we're not kind of like friends or family or acquaintances associated to each other,
That's
even
true.
even as colleagues, why we men are more realists, right? Because in between us men, there is we're always more respectful. We know what to say, when to say it, and to who to say it, and when to shut the fuck up. And here's why. because between us men there is always the underlying threat of violence.
100%. And we've talked about that before.
You see what
I
I'm
know
talking
that if I'm disrespectful to you and I act like a punk, I know at any given moment, if you're a real dude, boom, you might punch my friggin' teeth out and I might not even see it coming.
exactly. You
Andrew
see,
Tate told a great story about that.
Right? Boom.
Did you hear
right?
that?
Boom.
so you see,
Andrew Tate was at a fish
You
and chip,
nailed it.
all-night fish and
nailed
chip place,
Yep.
and he was there with his girlfriend,
Yep.
yeah,
and
Men understand that.
these guys pulled up in a car. They were guerrillas, and they went to the front of the line. And his girlfriend started saying, "Hey, who are you?" And now this is Andrew Tate, right? He's a big guy. He's a professional fighter.
Oh,
he's
he
also
tells
a
it-
tough guy,
and-
and he's let's put it this way, he's not a granola boy, that's for sure.
Right.
no.
And he tells
He's
his
not a dummy
girlfriend,
either.
"Shut the fuck up." She's like, "What? No, that's not fair." He's like, "Did you hear what I just said?"
Yeah, she doesn't get it.
And
Doesn't
so
get
the
it.
girl, so he was about to physically restrain her, and the girl in front of them with another big guy, it's like, "Hey, who are you? What are you doing?" And these big guys come up, turn around, they go back to her and said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Boom! And sent the girl like 50 feet. And before the guy could react, the other guy took out the guy, and these two people are out cold on the ground. And Tate just looks at the girl and
I gotta tell. But by the way, in relation to Andrew Tate, I don't know if you guys have heard, but him and his brother, they got arrested in Romania or Bulgaria.
yeah,
Or something.
We
yeah,
heard
he's-
until February 8th, I think they're
Yeah,
held.
you know what's the kind of like the basic kind of like forensics behind that. The guy is obviously 100% innocent. He didn't do anything wrong.
right.
It's just when you become that big,
A target.
when you become that big,
Bullseye.
exactly, and you got a large platform, when a large people following you, you become a target, and they will do anything to discredit you, stain and sully your name, and also
Scary.
also at one point, if they need to, own you, like, but basically you're becoming their major BH, like you control the opposition and nobody knows. That is if you're willing to cut the deal. Some people don't bend over for that. As the old saying goes, give me liberty or give me death.
Well, it's big fella's making a comment here saying, here, I'll put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. It's and we're not saying that Tate's a hero,
Yeah,
but
we're not saying he's
but-
a hero.
but Tate is telling people to think outside the box, right? He's telling
But
you
he's also saying, he's also call it as it is. I'm saying, maybe I'm not saying he's a hero in every aspect of life.
No.
But I'm not or a role model in every aspect of life. But you can follow and see some of okay, no one's, yeah, without being another member of a big club. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can agree to some of that, but in his case, I don't think that's the case, because again, he was arrested several times. He was they tried to get the jump on him several times, and usually you don't do that to foot soldier, a captain, lieutenant colonel, or one of your controlled opposition, unless you really want to play the double game.
Yeah, it's like anything, is we're never going to know the whole story, but if we can take information and use it to our advantage. I mean, the bottom line is, I'm not a huge Tate fan, but I do think that he has some good merit. I mean, telling a guy to take care of himself before he tries to take care of a family, I think is great advice.
Yes, it is.
I mean, how can that be wrong?
Yeah, especially a young man that needs to develop himself, focus on himself, continue building his values, so that eventually, if he wants to and he has the option, he can not only take care of himself but adequately take care of others.
Yeah, but where all of them have gone, the real men, especially the younger generation. I mean, like, they're all like, oh, maybe if I'll agree with that woke Karen feminazi, she's gonna let me to get to her to get with her to second base and let me touch her boob or something like that. And then like it's like they literally made themselves so vulnerable to the matriarchy. I mean, like, I mean, people have forgotten in a general sense,
Yeah.
and I think we can all agree on that, including the big fellas, whoever they are, or he is, or she is, or I don't know what.
No, he's an Australian.
Okay,
Australian, right?
fair enough, fair enough. Aussie land. Um, what I'm trying to say is basically, um, he's on a on a roll right now.
He's on a
He's
roll.
romping, man.
Yeah, 100%. No, it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
And I'm not
More
disagreeing
participants.
with what he's saying, you know. But yeah, no,
Maybe
we
I'm
don't
wrong.
think Tate's a hero. But to Dave's point, there, he does bring up some commonsensical things that seem to have merit and some value. That's all. That's all
Yeah.
we need.
Exactly, which was what I was saying. But think about it. But think about it also from a different angle. Like look at it. All those again young men of today.
Right. Right.
In all this.
Yeah, do they even have
completely
fathers at
mental-
home?
Well,
Right?
this is what I was
mean,
going to
they need-
say.
yeah.
What Tate is appealing to is, in a way, I applaud him for this, but maybe it's a total farce and a total friggin' show. But I don't think it is. I do think he means it in this sense that there's a generation or two of young lost men that you were just alluding to, and he's telling them or trying to help them and to be men and what it means to be a man. Because what you just said, Dave, we've got 2 generations now, 3 generations, whatever the case may be, particularly in the West, where, you know, to these young guys is not their fault. They don't know because they didn't have a man in their life. They just had a mother.
And even if they did, even if they did have a father figure in their life, probably a beta cock, like, you know, like a neutered guy.
Big time, 100%. Yeah. There's a
In
word
some
for
cases,
that.
I mean, like
What do
that.
they call it? It starts with an S, a simp or something. But yeah, exactly.
The Simps.
Yeah.
The Simps.
It's just he wasn't a man. He didn't teach them how to be a man. And a woman, I love women like the next guy. We don't denigrate women. Women are important, but they're not men. And they can't teach a young boy how to be a man. She's
Listen,
not a man.
Never
guys.
in my
Hello.
life. You're right. And never in my
That
life.
would be like me trying to teach my daughter how to be a woman.
To be honest, like never in my life, with even in my teenage years, again, 20s, 30s, again,
I don't know
I'm
how to be a woman.
40.
Sorry.
I never treated any woman, any woman, as kind of like in a degrading way of like that's another piece of meat or something like that.
Absolutely.
No,
100%. A real man treats a woman with
exactly.
respect, kindness.
Exactly.
And he'll even, I would argue, not to interrupt you, I'm sorry. I would even argue a real man will, if he can, he'll stand his ground, but he'll try to be gentle, back off a little bit if he can, without getting even in a verbal bad confrontation, right? Because you don't want to do that with anybody, but particularly a woman. Why? Because you want to be a gentleman if you can, right? You know what I mean?
Well, I would say, yeah, you can be, you can and should be an officer and a gentleman when you can and you should be.
And you've got to be firm at times, absolutely, and stand your ground. I'm not saying
but
be a
when you
wuss,
need to be a savage,
but I'm not going to go after. Exactly, you nailed it. I'm not going to go after a woman necessarily like I would if I had to a man.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah,
going
exactly.
What about these videos that are surfing with these? I don't know if it's high school, college, whatever. You see these girls going up and punching these guys, and then the guy punches them back, and the guy's the bad guy. I don't know if a girl came up and cold cocked you, would you hit him back?
I wouldn't, but I would be like, "What the fuck? What are you doing, honey? Really?
No,
Don't do that again."
I'm sorry. I would have to say that I will have to after the fact to assess the situation, and if a girl, depending what goes, because you see those little I don't know purple head dykes, like that like butches, like some of them can
Yeah.
even go to toe with a man.
Yeah, at
So
that age
Some of
they
them can
can.
knock you into.
Oh
That's
yeah,
true.
at that
exactly.
age.
So you see, so if one of those come and punch me and I lose a back tooth, or like, let's say I'm falling over the floor and I'm starting to bleed,
Right.
Yeah.
if I'm getting back up, she won't. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'm clearing up front right now. If you want to see, if you really want uh, equal rights in every aspect of life, let me show you the lesser. Let's put it the less
Right.
convenient part of equal rights. Equal rights. If you're brave enough to come to me as a man and punch me straight in the face, in the nose, or in the jaw, uh, you, you see, that's the problem with the modern age matriarchy, Karens,
Mhm.
woke culture, whatever you want to call it to
Yeah.
describe it as. They willing to do and say whatever they want. You
With no
can,
consequences. Right.
yeah, exactly. It was, I was just about to say,
Yep.
without, but they're not willing to deal with the consequences and the
Right.
repercussions of their actions. So
100%.
basically, you can swear, you can curse, you can
Yep.
hit people, you can break the law, and you
Yep.
will have the full backing of the legal system.
Yep. But no
No, I'm sorry,
repercussions.
like,
But we won't. And so the question would be too: how many women, and not to be disrespectful, unless you're a UFC fighter, and the women of the UFC are fantastic, no doubt. But but that's not the norm. How many people, for that matter, have ever even been punched in the face? You know what I'm saying? Because
Unfortunately, I have, and it's no fun. But
you've been punched in the face, Dave. I
oh,
know that.
yeah,
I've been
yeah,
punched in the face. I
yeah,
suspect you've been punched
never
in the
fun.
face before. I know what it's
uh,
like to be choked out. I know what it's like to be punched in the face. I know what it's like to take a kick to the ribs, on and on and on. What's my point? My point is repercussions and stuff, right? We as men realize, like you said earlier, El Nino, that it could potentially, and that's why we're respectful, because we know where it could potentially go. And if you've ever been cold cocked, like Dave just said, you know what it's like. It's not nice. If you've ever had your lips split open and your teeth
Well, and that
loose,
Andrew Tate story. I mean, you
right?
didn't see him standing up to those guys getting out of the
No,
car, right?
because he's experienced. He understands it. He's a man, and any guy that's got a
which
bloody
is
nose or his lip split understands that. You don't have to be a champion to understand that.
And
That
they could
which
be
is
packed,
what
and
I
they could
was
be
saying earlier.
packing.
yeah,
Yeah.
that too. What if they got knives or handguns? Now what?
Exactly, which is what I was saying earlier, also to the big fella as well,
Right,
who participated in the conversation. I was
right.
saying as well, like, I'm not idolizing or making Andrew Tate a hero, but he's got a way of calling it as it is, like,
Absolutely.
and
I
whether
agree with that.
if it suits you or not suits you, like, again, zero lies detected. I mean, it could be that also the big fella is right. Could be that he's a controlled opposition. Could be that he's giving people the illusion, because that's what he was hired for. That there's another
He's
good
an
guy. There is still
entertainer.
hope.
Yeah.
Someone to
Could be a
keep fighting
distinct
the good fight.
possibility. You never know. You never
Yeah,
know.
We're in
and
the
if you do know,
circuses.
then you kind of like have to keep your mouth shut, because then they're gonna come after you. What I came to learn. What I came to learn. If you're big enough, and I'm not just talking about financially, in a financial way, or in business, or
Yeah.
finance, or
Yeah.
whatever, even if you're in any social media platform and you got, like, let's say, half a million subscribers and followers, or tens of millions, yeah, and you become what the Gen Zs, the woke culture of today, calls an influencer, whatever it
Right.
is.
Whatever that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so listen to this, and all you do all day long, and you get some revenue from that, or maybe a lot of revenue for that, but that's not the main point and not the main issue. I came to learn that all of the, well, not all, but most of the Western uh, intelligence services, the three-letter agencies, and their contractors and subcontractors and so on and so forth, and even their mercenaries, even, and I know that for a fact. Okay, I know that for a fact. I don't think that's the time or the place to share it. How do I know it? But
I'm not even going to ask, so don't worry.
no, what I'm telling you is just like basically
Listening.
if you're big enough and you got a lot of followers to follow you, and all you do all day long is just teach people how to plant flowers or how to grow their own fruits and vegetables in their backyard. Yeah,
Seems harmless.
seems completely harmless. You're not teaching them how to fight. You're not
Nope.
teaching them. You're not going against their narrative. You're
Nope.
not discredit them. You're not even showing them how to use a sidearm or automatic rifle
No.
or an M4 with a coated barrel, whatever. Yeah, one of the things they definitely don't want people to know.
Right.
And you don't even talk about the little. I don't even just like
Can you
Jim.
teach them how to throw eggs and tomatoes?
Whatever. But the thing is that even if you got a significant number of followers in a certain region or globally, 500,000, million and a half, etc., and so on and so forth, you will be summoned to a clarification conversation because you might be exposing or have the ability to expose certain type of information that they don't want disclosed to the public, and we simply cannot have this shit.
Got it.
And I'm telling you this for a fact, whether if it's going to be by your local
Oh, it
police
happens
station,
everywhere. Yeah.
but yeah, but exactly, but that's for me in the last, let's say, 5 to 6 years, arguably slightly more, it's a new thing. It's anything. It's just like basically, it's just that the delusion of the one party system, liberal, like
You
basically,
get the proverbial knock on the door from whoever.
yeah. But
saying
the
it.
Democrats or the Republicans, which is basically a one party, it's just a shell game.
Yeah, it's a front. Yeah.
So I came to learn also as a fact, and again from the same source, that basically if our votes actually mattered, we wouldn't be allowed to vote.
Right. Mark Twain.
Make sense?
Yes.
Which is how they got away with the 2020 election BS. And but at that point, it was so obvious.
And as Stalin said, you don't need to, you don't need to you just need to control the people who count the votes.
That, but also they couldn't care less. They couldn't give a shit if they can just stuff in ballots. I mean, like it's ridiculous. You know what? I mean, like we all know that the big guy, the old man, where that cognitive mess in the White House is on his way out, right? We all know.
Yeah, I mean, but anybody who was awake, I mean, it's
no, he's not. Listen, whether
yeah.
it's going to come from our side or the other side, it's really doesn't matter. We know that he's done. He's
well,
not.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Russia and China are part of the club, or do you think they're in a different club?
I think I'm kind of like I'm not gonna say 50-50 about that, but I think they're a different club. And here's my rationale for that. All throughout, some people might say that it's all a big show, and the cabal, the global elites, the deep state, the Rothschild, the Rockefeller, the Ford, the Disney conglomerates, Rupert Murdoch, George Soros, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. The list is endless. And also, the Bilderbergers, the Club of Rome, all the different kind of like inner circle that form up to a bigger, wider one, and they all collaborate with one another.
What we call the powers that be.
Yeah, the powers that be. I control this part of the world. You let me know if you need something, and I'll call in a favor in your part, the part of the world you control in, and basically like that's how we're gonna control everything.
Mhm.
But you got to remember something before I continue, that even among these guys, hubris and and the level, not just their hubris, basically, like vanity, hubris, whatever you want to call it, like. But I'm gonna say it in a very delicate form. Even among themselves and in the back of their minds, the level of anxiety and paranoia is just staggering. Like, you won't believe sometimes right now, if you check it out, and you'll see the different tentacles of BlackRock and Vanguard and
Oh
State
yeah.
Street and Fidelity. You will notice that even among themselves, there are different fractions, and the board of members tables, that the members of the board, like everyone, the knives are out, because BlackRock is highly invested in real estate and in big pharma and in other endeavors, profitable endeavors, but they also heavily invested in the Ponzi scheme we know as insurance. So the segment of the insurance coming like, guys, we bleeding money over here because of your fuck ups,
Mhm.
so we might have to break away because our group is not willing to take it and to offload your risk. You made your money, we're losing money. So
Well, I
just
mean, yeah, I mean, look at 9/11. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Israel was involved, or Israel factions were involved in 9/11,
uh,
as the
on
story goes?
and on the simple everyday Jack and Jill, definitely not. The state level, no. But when it comes to our guys, you know what I mean, like our 3 letter or 4 letter agency or 5 letter or
Mhm.
whatever you want to call them.
5 letter.
And yes, I think they were involved in some way. I don't know if it's indirectly.
What do you hear? Did you hear about those art students? In the U.S., there used to be like these
Yeah,
young Israelis who would go around selling art to everybody. Would you like to
yeah.
buy my painting? Would you?
And they
And
were caught on
supposedly,
the background dancing. Yes, it happened, something like that. Look, uh,
and
coming from the
supposedly
back.
they had offices in the World Trade Center, and they would go there at night, and that they were the ones who were responsible for placing the explosives in the appropriate places.
So that's where the plot get thickens, because basically it's not just the World Trade Center, the towers, or building number 7, where they stored all the data, that
Yeah,
collapsed, and then they kind of like did a mini reset
that's
to
right.
everything they wanted to hide. And after the fact, also, do you remember how many metric tons of gold and silver
Oh, yeah,
did they found
stolen.
in the foundations, like
Mhm.
in the
Oh,
basements?
Stolen from the Fed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Which
think
they may had a movie. I think the movie with Bruce Willis was before 9/11, wasn't it? Where that
which movie?
happened.
Which movie is that?
Die Hard.
One of the
No, no,
diehards,
no.
they took over this building and blew it up, and it was
Oh,
a
in Seattle,
distraction. It was a
the first one.
distraction. No, this was in New York. It was in distraction so that the real plot was to steal all the gold from the Fed.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. That was Die Hard 3 with Samuel L. Jackson as well. Yeah, he
Yeah, let
was
me see what year that was. Die Hard series.
3.
That was Die Hard 3.
Yeah,
Wow.
definitely Die Hard 3.
That was 1995.
Jesus.
Not, yeah.
And I've always said, this is something I truly believe in. I truly believe that a lot of these people that we're talking about, they're Satanists, they're Luciferians.
Oh, no,
And,
no, no.
and,
Don't. It's not a joke. Listen, they all
and,
throughout the years,
yeah.
through Hollywood movie, where
And they tell you what's coming. They
they're
tell you
not
what's
on-
coming.
they're not only telling you what's coming, they're giving you hints, and but not only to us, they're giving also to their bodies in different sections and different regions of the world. And the most funny thing is, I gotta tell you, well, it's not actually that funny, but um, it's it's quite disturbing because by the way, is Dan is off? Like,
Well, he's actually. I mean, what time? I mean, it's the middle of the morning for you, right?
It's actually the break of dawn, yeah, and we've
Break
been
Yeah,
of
I
at it.
dawn.
apologize. I got to bang out, guys. It's
Yeah,
No, it's
12:15.
yeah.
completely fine.
So let's just wrap. We'll give you the last word, El Nino. Whatever you wanted to say, and let me put up here. I haven't been paying attention here. Let me just put up these messages from the big fella here. Big fella, you got to come on next time.
Yeah.
Definitely, 100%.
Here's what I'll
Okay.
say real quick. Circling back real quick, dating, relationships, all that. You're seeing it already. I think with his daughters being 5 and 7 or whatever, God knows how much dating between now and when they're ready is going to change. It's already changed 180 degrees already with the red pill, young guys not knowing how to be men, on and on and on, never having a role model, blah, blah, blah. God knows what it's going to be like for your daughters and what kind of men.
Dan, brother, now you touched the nerve. I'm gonna be like a shadow when they become of
I
David.
know that. I hear you as a
David.
good father. I can tell, but God knows like what they're going to be exposed to and what they're going to have to deal with. I'll leave you on this note.
Well, and you just said it, and shouldn't God be part of it?
100%. So I'm going to leave you both on this note. Dave's familiar with this. We are headed towards, and I'm going to cite this, Elysium. Elysium is a word that comes from the Bible. I forget what part. But if you watch the movie, you'll understand what I mean. We're definitely headed in that direction where there's going to be no families. The bulk of the people on the planet are just going to be workers supporting these massive corporations, and the earth is going to be nothing but a biosphere for pure workers that in turn are going to support the 0.00001% elite that don't even live on the planet anymore.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen the movie with Matt Damon, the Elysium. Yeah, I've seen the movie several times. By the way,
in my humble opinion, that is a model for. We're a ways from there, but we're pointed in that direction. 100%. That's my opinion. I hope I'm dead wrong. The elite will reach a point where they won't even live here. They won't even want to live here. Okay.
Well, you hear Elon Musk saying that, right?
100%. It'll be a total shit.
Like a kind of like a build the million Mars, the million.
It'll be a total shithole here, and the purpose of that will be to support the elite on some either on a real planet or a man-made planet while they're living in paradise. That's where we're headed. There's no doubt in my mind. I can see it.
Listen, we're in a tipping point, and before if you need to take off, but just before
I do. But I'll listen to what you're saying. Yeah, we're at a tipping point. You nailed it. Yeah.
But I can tell you that it can go either way. Right now, the odds are not in our favor. That's for sure. And I don't like the scenery, just like you and David. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not even assuming that's what David left the stateside. But will he ever come back? Who knows? But I can tell you this: he left the stateside to Mexico. From very similar, if not exactly the same reason I left Israel, which is what? The biggest aircraft carrier for the US and UK in the Middle East. Yeah. I just don't want to be involved in that shit anymore. I've seen too much. I just don't want to. For what? For what? So a few arm dealers and a few fat ass puppet politician bureaucrats and elites can pocket a few more billions and trillions of dollars, euros, or pounds.
Yeah. Spot on, dude.
For what? And then what? That's going to be my legacy. I'm going to.
We get to sacrifice, if not ourselves, our family or our sons and daughters.
Just look at the Ukraine. The Ukraine's being dismantled to put money into certain people's pockets.
And that's by the way, that's also in relation to your question, David, and you need to listen to that too, Dan. A lot of people believe Max Igan, by the way, is one of them.
Yeah.
Max Igan. You guys heard of them? Heard of him?
Max Igan, I've heard the name.
I've heard it too.
Yeah. He's staying right now in Acapulco with the Dollar Vigilante with what's his name? I forgot his name.
Oh, Dollar Vigilante. Yeah. We know that cat.
Yeah. All right, I forgot his name. Jeff Berwick. Yeah, Jeff Berwick.
Jeff Berwick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
So
there's a slippery guy.
yeah, okay, fair enough. But he helped
Max
Max
Egan
Egan.
burned from Boop you boob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he ran away from Australia during the peak of the scamdemic, and he's now residing, and Jeff Berwick helped him and all that. But my main point is, he stated that like yeah, the Great Reset and that Klaus Schwab fella, the like the WEF and the Davos crowd and all that. He said. They're all part of the same big club. It's a big club, and we ain't part of it. Now, in the beginning, I had my doubts. Like I was kind of like split-minded,
That's
50-50.
George Carlin.
Yeah. Could be, but again,
That's who said it. Yeah.
I know that. I know. I know. To be honest with you, I also miss the guy. He passed away, but I miss the guy. I miss his material. But my main point, you asked me earlier, like, well, not that earlier, but about 5-10 minutes ago, if I think that Russia and China are in the same club, and my answer is no, and here's why. First of all, Vladimir Putin, which is basically being portrayed in the West as I don't know, Vladimir Putler or
Hitler. Putla, like
Putler
Hitler.
or whatever
Yeah.
they want to. Where even though he's a nationalist, and again he's no angel, but in this case he's not the bad guy either. That's for one. China, I don't think they really need us, because if you look at it as a whole, from 8.2 billion souls on this planet, and 1 billion is like what, 1,000 times a million. So the collective West is 1.2, 1.3 billion. The rest of it is the East. Now, our oligarchs, what we call the elites, the deep state, and whatever, they already bet the next century, 100, 150 years ahead, on the East. They already moved some of their assets.
Well, I'm sure they have.
They're having difficulties, and here's why. Because for the last 4, 5, 600 years, we put 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, I think between 3 to 4 empires to sleep, and now those empires are rising back up. I think the first ones was the Hindu Kush Empire. The second one was the Chinese Empire. And the third one was the Russian Empire, which was with the assassination of the Russian Tsar back in the days, when we engineered his Bolshevik revolution. Just like prior to that, when I say we, I'm talking about the West, the Western elites.
Yeah.
They engineered the Jacobin revolution in France, in the French kingdom. Now, also, the most recent one in our lifetime was the Persian Empire with the Persian Shah. And then the Great Iranian Revolution, and so on and so forth. Now, you'll be surprised over here in London how many friends I've got from Iran. And I'm a former soldier, an ex-military in the IDF, and they former Revolutionary Guard soldiers, and how much like-minded we think. And over here, we're not fucking enemies. It's not like over there in the Middle East when we taught to hate each other and stuff like that. So I think that the next rules of the next 100, 150 years will be dictated by Russia, the BRICS nation, basically, the BRICS, and all the countries that are going to sign up if they haven't already. Because you got
it's
Brazil.
It's coming. Yeah. It's probably already signed and just not released.
Yeah, and I think
Saudi Arabia, Iran, Argentina, and possibly, well, Brazil's already part of it. Possibly Mexico, and that would be a shot across the bow.
Brazil's part of it, but did you notice the sabotage? Who was
on the election? Sure.
Yes, sure. Yes. So
Dan's married to a Brazilian woman. So he has inside information on all of it.
100%. So who was that allegedly was elected? That Lola guy who's an ex-criminal and whatnot, and then you've got that
the guy in charge of the Supreme Court conveniently pardoned him.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Conveniently, you said it best. Like
Yeah.
with one
Well,
word.
as Big Fella's been saying, it's all scripted. It's all scripted. And the one comment from Big Fella that I really love is, you notice how they never bomb the banks.
Spot on, big guy. Yeah, that's a great line. That's a good one, big fella.
We'll end it
Guys,
there.
I gotta go. I apologize. I gotta
No,
get up.
no, it's like, hey, Dan,
I
thanks.
gotta go to
didn't
work in
mean-
the Matrix. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me,
We gotta do what you have to do what you want to, man. We gotta, you know what? Get those bucks into your pocket while they still purchases something and put it in something of use. Like
that's
just
it.
yeah, don't
Absolutely.
you obviously like from a different generation, even in my own, but like just they brainwashing the current generations like to be mindless consumers. Just buy this, buy that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, Dan's saving up for his Lamborghini and 3 more baby mamas.
Yes.
Why not? Why not? Why not?
What
God
a
bless,
wise
man.
guy.
It's just-
All right, guys.
Show
Great.
him your bling.
Yeah, show 'em my bling. Great speaking with you guys.
Okay,
I hope we
guys.
talk again one of these days, El Nino. Take care, man.
Sure
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Make
hopefully,
sure you send me an email so I can, and then we've got to have a conversation about Israel.
Sure thing, 100%. But how can I send you an email? How can I reach to your like? I mean,
It's
what do I?
yeah, it's just davidisdawe@gmail.
100%, no problem.
Okay, and
All
it
right,
should
guys.
be on my it should be in the YouTube About channel page as well. The contact.
Oh yeah, in the description about the channel. Yeah, all right. I'll look up for it and I'll send you an email
Excellent.
and then we can discuss. Like
All right, guys.
was a
Next
good
time.
one. Thank you.
Yeah,
It was a
great
pleasure.
comments, great conversation.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on
much.
board.
Thank you
Bye-bye
as
now.
well, big fella. Great comments.
Yeah, thanks,
you.
Big Fella.
Take care, guys.
Happy Mondays. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye now.